It is 6 p.m. It is Monday, November 3rd, 2025. This is the Londonderry Town Council meeting. Everyone please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Might be a quick meeting.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Dave. Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, next up was a special presentation from Dave Wally. They might have to leave us. Dave?
Oh, what's going on?
How's your computer going?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, thank you. Good evening, thank you, Mr. Town Manager, Chairman of the Board, members of both Budget Committee and Town Council. And thank you for providing me the time tonight to come before you to make a couple of announcements. On Saturday's budget meeting, I talked about the kind of the restructuring, reorganization at the top of our chart, how we used to have one on-call foreman that was assuming that role 365 days a year, and now we have three individual foremen that rotate weekly to cover the span of the year, so it's not just all on one person's shoulders. So with me tonight is Carl. If you would stand, Carl. So Carl is our highway foreman. Ricky, if you join him. He's our buildings and grounds foreman, so if the power does permanently go out, Ricky's going to jump right into action. And Jim Gazowski is our chief mechanic. So those are the three gentlemen now that when a tree comes down and knocks the power out and whatnot, one of these might be exiting real fast to respond out there. But those are our on-call foremen, so thank you, gentlemen. But more importantly, tonight we're here to recognize an important milestone in the professional development of our Londonderry DPW team. Our highway foreman, Carl Anderson, who initially worked for us as a part-time attendant at the drop-off center, getting hired as a full-time truck driver in 2015, and then promoted to assistant highway foreman in 2021, and most recently now to the highway foreman role. Our chief mechanic, Jim Gazowski, was hired as a truck driver laborer in 2019. He was promoted to the first chief mechanic, first he was promoted to the mechanic operator position in 2022, and then promoted into the chief mechanic role in 2023 with the creation of that position. And then additionally joining us this evening, Nate, if you would stand for a second too. So this is Nate Sullivan. He was hired to us in 2021, recruited him actually from the Pelham DPW, and he was hired in as a truck driver laborer, and then just most recently, last December of 2024, we promoted him to equipment operator. So thank you, Nate, as well. What they are here for is they have recently earned the New Hampshire Road Scholar 1 certificate through the University of New Hampshire T-Squared Program Center, which is the home of New Hampshire's Local Technical Assistance Program, or LTAP. The New Hampshire Road Scholar Program is a statewide training and professional development program that helps the state and municipal highway employees build their skills and knowledge needed to maintain and improve our local transportation infrastructure. The Road Scholar 1 level, which these gentlemen have acquired, requires 25 hours in the applicable coursework across a range of essential topics such as roadway safety, culvert installation, pavement and gravel road maintenance, and winter operations, to drainage, environmental practices, and equipment operation. It's the first step on a professional journey that continues through highest levels of achievement, including the next level, New Hampshire Road Scholar 2, which requires 50 hours of coursework. Senior New Hampshire Roads Technical Scholar is 75 hours. And then finally, the New Hampshire Master Road Scholar, which requires 100 hours. There are then development hours now that also allow you to go to a Master Road Scholar 2 for 150 hours of completion and a 20-hour safety champion certificate. And then finally, an advanced New Hampshire Master Road Scholar 200 hours plus a capstone project. UNH T-Squared has been supporting New Hampshire's public works professionals in towns like ours for almost 40 years, delivering over 100 training opportunities each year to nearly 2,000 participants, as well as providing customized technical assistance. Through funding from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration, T-Squared helps local highway agencies gain the knowledge and tools they need to maintain safe, reliable roadways for the traveling public. So I just wanted to bring them forward tonight and congratulate the gentlemen that have achieved this milestone. So thank you, gentlemen. Also with me this evening is our newest hire, James Danis. Do you mind joining me up here for a moment? Put him right on the spot.
There you go.
You'll be seeing him a lot, hearing this name a lot. So James started with us today, and we're excited to get him busy on our new asset management program with the Open Gov system. He'll be working diligently on developing a PCI for our town and working that into a formalized road program. Obviously assisting, if not spearheading, our MS4 reporting as well as other important asset management structures. Again, I talked a little bit about this Saturday in the fact that we've been, John Trotty has been really doing, a lot of work on his own for the last 3.5 years. So we're eager to have a second engineer on board and really start to, take a nice, good deep dive and look at some of the projects and the concerns we hear about road construction, congestion of traffic in town, challenging intersections that are only getting more challenged with the amount of traffic that we have coming in with all of the development that's in place. So again, I just wanted James Danis to officially come in and, let you know who he is. And if you want to tell him a little bit about yourself, your experience and where you've come from and.
Yeah, sure. I wish I had a prepared speech, but I don't. So I'll keep it quick and short. I bring with me 26 years of experience, 10 years. First 10 years of experience was in site and subdivision design. And then for the last 16 years, I've been the capital projects engineer in Salem. Within Salem, I specialized in a lot of roadway infrastructure, reconstruction, dealt with a considerable amount of specification writing, contract writing, grants, ordinances, and just been a jack of all trades for Salem for quite some time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do for town of Londonderry. I'm really excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity of being here.
And
Welcome.
one good thing about James, too, obviously he did work in Salem. I worked with James closely in my time there. And the uniqueness of that was I was down at the DPW, he was over in engineering, kind of the similar setup we have here across town. So whenever I would go to him about, operational challenges that we're having when we had roads come up in our road program that were creating, stresses on the operational side of things, James took the time to really be very diligent about learning what our needs were, and then we would then structure that road construction in that program around a variety of other challenges too, with other infrastructure needs that were coming into the community and growth and things of that nature. But what is a new flavor for him here is he is reporting down to the DPW where I am at. So he's going to be closer to the operational side of things and then really get to see a couple of things twofold. We have a really young turning over staff. So he's interested in helping, gear and mentor and train and help and assist in road program projects that we take on ourselves in-house, and then as well as, just seeing the operation himself and growing in that side, in that regard of the profession as well. So
Yeah, I bring quite a bit of construction experience with me. I've designed and developed the road program for Salem for the last 10 years or so. So it's definitely something where I think I can bring that experience to Londonderry. And as Dave puts it, a lot of the guys in the shop, they're very eager to learn a lot of the construction side of things, which I'm certain I can, help them along that way and kind of get them to the next level.
that's it. Any questions for either of us?
Questions for Dave? Thank you.
All right, thank you much. Enjoy the rest of the
Appreciate it.
evening.
Welcome.
Hopefully the power stays on.
Dave, I just wanted to let you know, it doesn't look like it was trees, it was actually a transformer fire.
Okay.
Really?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll open public comment.
Sit down,
Sure.
no stand up anymore.
Oh, you Christine?
Good. Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. I would like to respectfully request the council to make it a policy that cell phones are turned off and put away during meetings, town council meetings. We, the public, have a very limited access to you as a board and certainly deserve your undivided attention in the few short hours we have you before us as a complete board. Those in the audience are very aware of the texts that are being sent and received by members of the board during these meetings. If someone has something to say, please let them say it publicly. So there's no need to hold off on this. There's no reason to kick the can down the road. This is a pure case of asking for courtesy and respect for your constituents. So please make a motion and vote to put away your cell phones during town council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Anybody else with public comment?
Are you not going to discuss that?
Seeing none, I will close public comment. Up next, I have a special presentation from Jonathan Kipp and Sherry Farrell. Thank you both for the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman, for the additional time.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Budget Committee, Mr. Town Manager. I'm Jonathan Kipp, Town Moderator,
Sherry Farrell, your town clerk.
and we're here tonight with a request for the council to authorize funding for additional voting tabulators and poll pads, the devices we use to check voters in. And if I were sitting where you're sitting, which I did for many years as a member of the Budget Committee, I'd be asking, why now? So let me explain that. First, let me preface it by saying I'm a thrifty Yankee. My wife calls me something different, but I really hesitate to spend the taxpayers' money. So the election equipment is part of the town clerk's budget. So each year when we prepare the budget, Sherry asks for advice, and we collaborate on what to include in the operating budget for that year for new equipment. And I've always been very hesitant to add to. We can always get by with what we have. We can make do with what we have. And so with that as background, a couple of things came together last week. One is I started the outreach that I think you suggested, Councilor Paul, after the last time I was here, talking to other moderators who have additional polling places. And I haven't collected all the information yet, so I'm not prepared to report on that. However, one of the pieces of information every one of them said was, you're going to need more equipment. So whether we need more equipment for the one place we have now or there are numerous places we may someday have, the number of voters isn't really changing. And the second thing that happened was I went to the Town Clerks Association annual conference last week for one day and had a chance again to talk to other moderators, several town clerks. And while I don't have specific numbers, from what I brought away from that was proportionally we have fewer tabulators than most towns. Right now we have 5 tabulators for close to 19,000 voters. And the tabulators are the ballot counting devices. We borrowed a 6th one last March when we got backed up. Voting Works was kind enough to bring us one. So with a confluence of those two things last week, thinking about it over the weekend, I came to realize that my thriftiness is being taken out on the voters. It's unfair to them because in November of 2024, thankfully the weather was nice. We had lines around Matthew Thornton. You all saw the lines. Mm-hmm. In March of this year for the town and school elections, we had lines. Most of those were indoors waiting to get their ballots put into the machines. So what we're requesting tonight is money for 5 additional tabulators for a total of 10, and money for 6 additional poll pads. And the costs are, the tabulators are $6,000 a piece, so 5 of those would be $30,000. And the poll pads are $2,000 each. 6 of those would be $12,000. So it's a total of $42,000 that we're hoping you'll authorize us to spend in time for the March election. Sherry, I'm sorry, I did all the talking.
No, perfect. Exactly as Jonathan said last week at the clerks conference, it's a wonderful opportunity to see all of the other clerks. We actually have 224 city and town clerks throughout the state. Most of them attend, and it's that networking and that conversation that happens. And Jonathan and I, just as he said, learned that other towns do it different ways. The obstacle we have is presently, we have about 19,000 registered voters in town. Town elections, sadly, and I'm asking you as I do each time, please promote March 10th as our next town and school election. Together, we can get more than 3,500 people out to vote. as far as having fewer tabulators, 3,500 makes sense. You think, well, you've got 5 tabulators. The problem is our warrant can be from 8 to 10, perhaps more this time, pages back and front. And the voter has to take time putting each page through. And, 10 pages, that takes a considerable amount of time. In the presidential election of 24, of course, we had 19,000 registered voters, just about all of them, shy of a couple, came out to vote. Wonderful news, everyone came. The problem, or the gift, is there's only one page. So really, it adds up to almost the same equation. 19,000 voters are 3,500, but one page versus 10 back and front. So we learned a lot at the conference. This is something we need now, though. We can't wait until the next budget season. You all witnessed, as we did, what happened at the last town election. Our voters deserve better than that, and that's why we're here, kind of throwing ourselves at your mercy a little bit with it.
Jonathan, can the equipment arrive in time for March?
That's a great question, Mr. Chairman. I was on the phone with Voting Works several times today. They can guarantee us 8 in time for March, maybe 10.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Absolutely good.
where are we going to get the money for this in time to spend? Does our town manager have a response on that?
So obviously, towns cannot do supplemental appropriations during the year, unlike cities, so the only way to do that, we'd have to take it within the existing FY 2026 budget. So there's several different ways you could do that. You could authorize the movement of money from other places in the budget over into the town clerk's budget. I don't recommend that you do that. If you want to do this, my recommendation is you tell me to make this happen, and I will make the cuts I need to make that happen throughout the municipal budget. And the town clerk's budget will go over budget at the end of the year, but other budgets will be under. And I'll make what I call back of the budget cuts. Most likely I will delay things in hopes that I have money in other places at the end of the year that I don't have to make actual cuts. So that's the recommended course of action, that you just direct me to go and do that, to allow them to order those machines so they can come in time if that's what you wish me to do.
Well, let's hope we have a light winter, because that will keep our expenses down.
Deb, go ahead.
I just have a few questions. Is there a state number that says when you have X amount of voters, you're supposed to have X amount of machines?
What a great idea.
Because I talked to a clerk, and that's what they told me, that there is a formula that the state has that for every so many voters, you should have X amount of machines. So I would like to be able to find that. And
Let her answer
May
the
I
question.
interrupt
Yeah.
a second?
I wanted
Sorry.
to finish my
Yeah,
question.
oh.
I think it might clarify for you, and then by all means, but I'm not aware of a formula when it comes to the voting machines, but we do have a formula for the voting booths, and depending on the election, one per voter, per 100 voters, we need to have one voting booth available to them. I'm not aware, Jonathan, are you, of anything pertaining?
I'm not either,
No.
and
But it does get confusing, but voting booths, yes, tabulators, not that I'm aware
And
of.
did our number of voters go up? Because I thought we only had like 17, but now we're at 19.
As I said, probably around 18.8, 18.9, I kind of rated
Okay.
that. We have about 19, little under 19,000 registered voters. Our supervisors of the checklist could verify that, though.
Okay.
I'm certain I'm not off by much.
Okay. And then, Mr. Manager, if this goes into the budget, does it stay in the budget?
No, what
Is
will
this
happen?
just a one-time, I'm just making sure it
This would
doesn't go.
obviously be a one-time expenditure, and I would have to take money from other places in the budget because the clerk's budget doesn't have any extra money in there. I mean, it's pretty thin. It's just the salaries of the people, and you've got a few things in there. We do have a tabulator proposed in the next year's budget, so you might want to remove that from the FY27 budget. So that's just something to think about there. And then, we turned back $600 some odd thousand at the end of FY25. So chances are we're going to have the funds, but then again, who knows what's going to happen during the year. But what I can do is, fortunately, we're just past the first quarter. I can make mid-course changes now, delay things so that the chances of having the money at the end of the year will be much higher. Obviously, we're not going to have a situation where, like some other communities, where we're going to be running over budget. That doesn't happen. Not in this town.
Dan, you had a question? Or Debbie, you all set?
I am, thank you.
Dan, you had a question?
Just a couple questions, Jonathan. You have 5 tabulators now.
We do.
Do those things ever break down when you're during the election?
They have. These new ones have not, but if you remember the old ones, we had one fail at the presidential election in 2020.
So what happens in that case if you have a machine that breaks down?
The state requires that the vendors of the machines always have somebody on standby with spare machines. And so, for example, in March of this year, I called the vendor and they brought us a spare machine to use for the absentee ballots because the line was so long. So they're immediately available and they're required to by state to have extra machines and service technicians on call.
Within a certain distance from us too, Dan, so, they
So-
can't be 5 hours away.
All right. So how do you feel about doing this next year if we put it in the budget that we're discussing now?
You won't have it for March.
Our concern is
I know
that
you won't have it
March.
for March, but you'll have what we have now for March.
I think the voters overwhelmingly, and working the election, talking to them, this is something that they would want for this year. It just, seeing the lines around there, if we have a bad weather day and we don't do this now, and we could have prevented it, I think it's just a bad look for our community. I think that amount of money is enough that'll provide enough value to our voters that people will feel good about what cuts we can delay. And I think Sean can adequately, I trust his ability to work that into our budget. So I think we need to do this year.
I also think if we can move people faster through the line, but also then faster through the tabulators, it'll lessen the strain on our parking lots and as well in traffic.
It might encourage more voting too, if
Yep.
people see less lines.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, just.
May I ask one quick quantitative question? Since you mentioned you were speaking to other clerks last week, did you get any information that's quantitative about if you add a machine, this cuts down the average voter's residency time at the voting booth or voting place by this much? Like, what's the effect of each additional machine?
What I'm thinking of, Derry being our neighbor next door, we share information back and forth a lot with that clerk and moderator, and comparably, that's what we're looking at, how many tabulators, poll pads. And at the conference, from what we learned, other towns that were facing similar situations did what we're doing, came to their council, during a meeting and said, this is our need. And we can't wait. And then, the changes were made. So we're learning as we go on some of this too.
Did they share any data after those changes, how time to vote went down?
No, other than there weren't any problems reported to the Attorney General, to the Secretary of State's office, calls weren't made, and that's what our goal is. We always want that A+ on the Attorney General's review. And I'm sure you're aware that the Attorney General comes through with a checklist that's probably 4 pages long, and everything we do well is marked off, and everything we miss, including lines, voting time, is noted.
I'm glad to see that you guys are looking not just for the tabulators, but also for the
Poll
tabulators
pads.
that check people in for the poll
Yeah.
tablets,
Yes.
because that is also the wrinkle in our system. Because if people are staying in line so long to
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
just get to vote, then they're also clogging up the parking lot on that end too.
And please, let me be, sorry.
No,
No, go ahead, you finish.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic equation depending on the election. We can't check people in faster than we can give them a booth to vote in and a machine to put their ballot in.
Of course.
So when we have a lot of people, the line is outside. And we check them in as fast as we can, but I can't have people standing around in where the booths are with no place to vote. So it's always a balance. We want to check in as many as we can, but not have the lines at the tabulators either. So they both need to be fast. But it's a great observation.
Deb had a question.
Well, yeah. How many did you say Derry has? How many machines?
Do you remember exactly? They're more than what we're asking for, I believe, but we can get back to you on that, Council.
Well, I mean, because they're like 35,000 population, we're 27. It's a little bit of a difference in the
They're voting, registered
population.
voters,
I think they're higher than we are.
yeah, slightly, not as much as you would expect, but.
Right. So I just want to know how you got to the number that you needed 5. You needed to double it to do this. Like, how did you get to that number? Why wouldn't 7 be the number or 8? Why 5? How did you get to doubling it? Like, what's the mathematical thing behind that? Because I would hate to spend the money and we don't have the voters and the machines aren't really going to be used. I'm just saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially this year.
Yeah,
How's that?
Counselor Paul, I would say in our discussions, and I wish it was something mathematical that we could, present, but based on what we witnessed, being there from, 4:30 in the morning until 1 o'clock, polls open at 6, close at 8. That's our best assumption at what we witnessed and what other people saw and noted. We don't
Well, I'm
have,
trying
yeah.
to be
Yeah,
nice to
I
the taxpayers.
understand,
I'm
yeah.
saying, if you can get by with
Right.
6, right?
Yeah.
Instead of the 5, or whatever, how many more?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
say, next year, you do another one. So you're not just shoving the whole thing down their throat. It's like, let's take a bite, let's calculate it, let's look and see how much these few have alleviated the process. That works or it doesn't work, then you adjust. Because it's easier to adjust by adding than subtracting. Because once we bought them, you're stuck with them. And so that's my thinking. That's why I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just trying to figure out how you got to your numbers and why the 5. Yes, there were lines, but that was the presidential election. That doesn't happen every year. I'm just trying to run all the scenarios through our heads. That's all.
Yep. And there's not a formula, so 5 is our best professional estimate based on the lines we've seen.
I mean, we had 5 last year. If you take 10 and you cut those lines in half, I still don't imagine there being we did overkill here. I think that's a great estimate based on, working the last 2 elections, seeing what was there.
I'll remind the council that we typically take 1, because that's all we have, or now we would put 2 tabulators back to process the absentee ballots, because they're folded, they take longer, and we want to get those done by the close of the polls as well, so we can get the results out quicker. So what I'm picturing is 8 tabulators up front for the voters and probably 2 in the back for the absentees.
I'll remind everyone, even during the Senate races get quite busy here for elections, not just presidentials. So even I believe it was 2014 was a very busy year. And I remember there were lines going down Mammoth Road of traffic trying to get here to vote. So it's not just the presidentials, it's senatorial elections get very busy here.
And as you said before, the number of sheets on a town election are significantly more than in a presidential.
Yeah, I'm
Chairman
trying
Dunn,
to think.
if I may, right, the Voting Works machines prior versus the old machines that we had before. I know that it takes longer for each page to be processed. Could you explain that so that the people that are watching at home, the council here, can understand why it's taking longer, especially with a town election where you have more pages? Why it's taking longer for everyone's ballots to be processed.
It's a great question.
It is a good question. The technology has changed,
Right.
that's why. The tabulators today take an image of the ballot in both sides, and please don't misunderstand that to believe that there's pictures of your ballots out floating around. That's not the case. But it takes an image of the ballot as it passes through. It does both sides simultaneously. The old machines did not do that, and that's why it takes longer. However, the machines that we'll be getting an upgraded version of the Voting Works devices, and they are faster. They've assured us they are faster. I haven't seen them in action yet, but towns that do have them say, yes, they are faster than the generation we have now. So,
Any other questions from the council?
Well, I guess, right to that point, right, regardless, voters are going to be at just processing their ballots longer. It's not just the quantity of voters we have, but when they you're going in with a stack of 8 pages, and it will take longer than it has in years prior. I remember standing in line after I had already voted, maybe 45 minutes an hour at the previous town election. And for myself, right, I'm young, I can stand for that amount of time. I could see some older folks that were just having a hard time standing, waiting after they had already voted just to get their ballots into the tabulation devices. So I wanted to make that point there.
Any other questions from the council? What does the council want to do?
I'm good to move forward.
Yeah, I'm good to move forward
Okay.
as
Does
requested.
anyone want
I can make a motion
Make a
to
motion.
direct the town manager to move forward with the requests of our town moderator and our town clerk.
for the 42,000?
Yes.
Yes,
The way he said it, the way the
Yes,
manager
yes,
said
yes.
it.
yes. I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion from Sean, a second from Ted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you both.
Thank you all very
Bring it
much.
to our
We
attention.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And the voters will appreciate it.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to move on to new business. We're going to open the budget workshop. And Mr. Mulholland is going to start us off.
Okay, we have day 2 of the budget presentations. Saturday was a long day after you worked all week and you had a long Saturday. But the 3 biggest budgets of the town, we obviously we worked our way through. And I'm going to have Kirsten's going to talk about the town manager's office budget, which hopefully will not take too long. We estimated 6 minutes, but we'll see how the questions there are.
My hubris is going to get the best of me.
Well, Dan has at least 6 minutes of questions for you. So.
I
Yes.
know, right?
So we just started 6 minutes, go.
All right. So I am here to present what I am calling the administration budget, which includes town manager's department, town council, as well as legal, general assistance, cultural affairs, and conservation, which is very short. So let's just dig in. So as we created this budget, we focused around the priorities of the administration as put forward by the town manager and yourselves, which is this core idea of transparency and engagement. And that's a major initiative that I think all of us have issued support for, budget committee, council, administrative offices alike. Strategic planning, this is a major ongoing initiative. And so part of our efforts to align expenses with departments rather than just an overall administration budget lets us more accurately reflect where things are being spent. Modernization, expanding digital services, document management, and this ties into the budget in the sense that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to the organizations and the trainings that are relevant to that, because as you're going to see in a minute, the key of administration is people, right? And making sure those people have the skills and the knowledge to do their jobs to the best of their abilities for the residents of this town. And then also civic and infrastructure development. You've seen Leadership Londonderry has come back. You've seen a number of major infrastructure projects coming forward that are not only funded by taxpayer money, but that are funded by grant money, that are interdepartmental, that are interjurisdictional, interagency, public-private partnerships. And so this reflects the administration's commitment to moving forward. So here's the too long didn't read of the town manager budget versus prior years. So the fiscal year 27 budget is $712,231 as proposed. It is down almost $100,000 from fiscal year 26, and it is below the default budget. Now, I don't want to say this is necessarily, I don't want to mislead you and say this necessarily reflects cuts to the overall budget, as you have seen in the budget overview. Many of those items ended up in other departments. To give you an example, ASCAP licensing fees used to come out of the town budget, the town manager's budget under management services or under dues and subscriptions. But in reality, those licensing fees are used for cable, so they've now been moved to the cable department. It's just an example. We went through 3 years of data of every single line item transaction in the town manager's department and every single line to come up with this budget. We looked at what we needed to keep, what should go elsewhere, and what was no longer necessary. And then we added things appropriately as we thought that we needed to fulfill those 4 objectives that I showed you on the prior slide. Salaries, you'll notice when we go to the next slide, there is a salary drop and a benefit drop. And again, I don't want to mislead you to suggest that we're cutting things. We have created a human resources, as you'll hear from Tara later. They have their own budgetary department now, and then the salary of the human resources director used to be in the town manager budget, and it is no longer there.
Just on salaries, okay. So just one thing in here. Apparently in the past, it was not budgeted for any increases for the town manager. It was done afterwards, correct me if I'm wrong, is that?
It was based on the contract, but yeah.
Yeah, so that money is in there. It's the same amount that other employees would get. I just want you to understand that, so that's different than my understanding of what it was in the past. Otherwise, you have a hole in the budget that has to be filled later on, so there's money actually in there for that purpose. That doesn't mean that's what the council is actually going to authorize, but there needs to be some budgetary amount in there, so it's in there.
And when we budget salaries, we also budget for the maximum possible increase. Not everybody always gets that, but again, it's better than the alternative, which is budgeting for less than that and then going over. Because that means then you need to cut after that. So as I said before, this was we went through every single transaction made in 3 fiscal years to figure out what this budget was built from. And the other thing we did, you'll notice the town council budget has gone up. Anything that was really directed towards governance was moved over there. So you can see here how this plays out, how the individual lines have changed, and I think that really is a testament to what the 4 of us did together, the town manager, the assistant town manager, the executive assistant, and myself, in going through and working through this budget. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me, but.
Not now, Dan.
So, town council budget. You notice the town council budget is increased, right? And this kind of shows those individual areas that brought it up from its $13,000 to its $19,373. Legal notices, and we've now coordinated everything that's a legal notice for town council under the town council line, so it accurately reflects what board it's supporting, just like we charge the Conservation Commission legal notices to the Conservation Commission, Planning Board goes to that line, now town council does as well. Event tickets, the tickets to the chamber events that go for counselors are now reflected under this line, as well as we've added a budget for travel to conferences and training for board members. And so that would be board members, not just council members, but any board members who the council supports going to training. So if there's a financial workshop and they want to send a member of the budget committee, or a trustees workshop for the trustees of the trust funds, we can pay those travel costs, those mileage costs, as we should be paying. And then obviously we moved over some general supplies, and the cost for the some of the services like the veterans breakfast that you've supported, that's in there. Those have all moved over to the council because that's the council's budget. So on to legal services. This is a separate budget number. So if you're looking under documents on the website, there's a separate section for legal. So this shows our legal lines, the actuals, the budgets. You notice the budget's up a little bit from this fiscal year 26 budget, but it doesn't quite hit our actuals for the last 2 years. We still think this is a realistic number because we've made it a priority to develop strategies and methodologies to reduce the spending in that line. Obviously, there will always be things that we need legal counsel for, but we're trying to make much more aggressive use of training materials, NHMA, reviewing what's happening in comparable towns, using our resources that are not billing at legal hours to do this.
I have a quick question. One of the reasons I know it was higher last fiscal year is because of union contracts. In fiscal year 2027, are there any contracts that we're going to need to negotiate?
There'll be one for sure that is up for renewal.
There are 2 unions that have requested renegotiation of a couple of the contracts, so,
Okay.
yes. But I don't plan on using legal counsel for that.
Okay, okay.
Part of the reason last year was that there was, during the crux of the negotiations, there was not a town manager. So legal served as the kind of leader of those negotiations. They were the coordinator. We now have somebody to do that, so the billing hours will not be
Okay, great.
nearly.
I just wanted to ask. Thanks.
All right, and that brings us over to general assistance. General assistance is the money that we are required to spend under New Hampshire RSA 165-1 to administer general welfare to our population, to those people who need it. We contract those services out to Greater Derry Community Health Services. They administer them for us. They administer welfare for 4 different towns. So that is the Community Health Services contract. It is going at 3.5% next year, and that's the only increase included in this line right now. Cultural affairs also is remaining stable in most lines, with the exception, we're asking for an additional $7,000 under the other line, which is actually the Arts Council line. The reason for that is that Concerts on the Common, with the cuts at the state level, will no longer be able to get the grant money that they have received from the state. There is no longer any New Hampshire Council for the Arts funding available. This $7 will supplement what they were receiving last year and what they were projected to receive, what they would have received this year from the state had that program continued. Concerts on the Common, as you know, reaches almost 1,000 people per concert. It's one of our most highly attended events that we have, and so we've added that additional funding in the budget to make it up. They also raise a significant and substantial amount of money on their own, so this is not like we are just taking it over for them. They are coming up with strategies to increase that themselves. And then that is what I have for slides. Conservation Commission, I told you that would be brief. Line item's the same as last year, $2,500, mostly pays for any review of documents they need and their legal notices. A little more than 6 minutes, but.
Any questions from the council, from the budget committee?
I do have a question.
Good, Dan.
When it comes to the Conservation Commission, will those expenses be able to come out of their funds that they haven't said that they get from land use change tax? Instead of us budgeting for that in a different way?
You could do that. You could ask them to do that.
Seems like they're double dipping.
No, they're not double dipping. They're 2 different purposes, but it's not uncommon for municipalities to have funds. I had it where I was too. There's a line item in the budget for conservation, and it's small. I think it was $3,000 there. And then you have they call it the loss fund there. You call it the conservation fund here.
Dan had some questions.
One question on legal. Let's say building department needs legal advice. Does it come out of this budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
The difference is we'll be sub-accounting for it this year, so we'll know which departments are using what services and which boards and that sort of thing. So we'll have a better way to track where those costs are and manage those costs. We really need to do a better job of managing those, and we've already implemented some of those strategies by using NHMA, which we already pay for. We've been doing some of that, and some of the things, quite frankly, we don't need a lawyer to do, we can do ourselves, and we've been doing more of that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more
Quickly.
question for the Arts Council for Council on the Common. Has we want to put any thought into increasing that $7,000, more than $7,000, as many bands have been becoming a lot more expensive, and we've becoming quite a draw of people over time. So I'm wondering if we might want to increase that beyond the $7,000.
So the answer for that is, obviously, like everything else, we have to have an incremental approach with things and how much you want to impact the tax rate. It sounds like only $1,000 here, but 1,000 here and 1,000 there and 1,000 there adds up. So obviously, the council can, this is the budget that I've proposed, the council can add to it or subtract it as it deems appropriate.
Just putting it out there for a thought that people to think about.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Good.
So is your OpenGov, is that underneath IT expenses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, OpenGov comes under IT.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
But yeah, is it just the removal of the one staff member under the in regular salaries where there's the almost $60,000 decrease from prior years, just one staff member moving to the HR line?
Yes,
And
so
then
that is
their benefits
the
as
the
well?
4 staffers that are in there is the town manager, the assistant town manager, myself, and the executive assistant. But that number also includes the existing contractual increases, and as Mr. Mulholland said, the proposed increase, the maximum proposed increase for a town manager. Like you said, doesn't mean he'll get it, but it's built into that, so as it wouldn't be a surprise.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see.
Next, we have the tax collector and the town clerk.
Yeah.
I took a shower, they don't worry.
We were just talking.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
There we are. There we are. Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about our budget and our wonderful office and team in the town clerk tax collector's office. The picture we wanted to start with represents our very small but powerful, educated, well-informed, compassionate, caring, loving heart of your community. And we have Carol, myself, Allison, not only the tax collector, but my deputy, our Tracy, our Christy, our Debbie, and our Kayla. And again, not a large group, considering that we bring in over $120 million. The majority of the monies that come through the town and school come through us. And we just are hoping this budget presentation will help us to spread the word about everything that our front-facing, day in and day out team do in our town clerk tax collector's office. So that's our first slide. And let's clicker. And our next slide. We say this all the time in our office. Not for the weak of heart, for our assistant clerks that do everything. We wear many hats, and we're never quite sure who or what emotion is walking through the door. So this is just to give the budget committee and our town councilors a little more information about what we do. First and foremost, we are your front line of defense, really, with your residents. First point of contact, Center for the Residential Knowledge and all information. And we get questions that pertain to taxes, to voter registration. We get right to knows, you name it, we get it. But then we also get quite an array of what do I do? My cat is stuck in the tree. My garbage, needs to be picked up, and we direct people, and we're very happy to do that. What day, is the center open to get rid of waste, things like that. Functions, and this is just, it seems to name a few, but to keep them kind of short here. Automobile registration's a huge part of the revenue that we bring in, not as big as property taxes, but for individual residents, we have fleet vehicles. Those are your Coca-Cola, your rental fleets that are up around the airport area, motorcycles. A few years back, we added boats to that list to help our residents to add as many services as we can. Golf carts, a new and big one that we see around town now. Trailers, just pulling weight behind your vehicles. And then we also have, our dog registrations, which I've been barking about for months now. And I'm very proud to say out of 5,500 dogs, Debbie just announced to us all today that we are down to about 50, which is unheard of, at least in our world. So, great lot of work goes into that. And then our record keeping, huge part, Sean's really helped us to get that part of our world up to date, because all of these things. Keep in mind, nothing up there is not mandated as an RSA. So not only do you have to have a lot of knowledge, a lot of education, a lot of patience, but you have to know and be aware of the laws. And that's big. And it's not easy hats or shoes to fill. If we continue the happy stuff, the vital records, before becoming a town clerk 11 years ago, I'm not sure that I understood what vital records were. Those are your marriage licenses, your birth certificates. We had a little 1-year-old, 1 week old in our office today. The happy, wonderful stuff, but it's also the sad things. We also had someone in today who lost his wife, and we're there to comfort, listen through and get them what they need, whether it's changing car registration, taking care of pet registrations. And then it goes down to, not to mention such a huge part, property taxes, the sewer taxes, leaning, which is not something that Allison likes to do, but it's part of RSAs. It's the law, and it also benefits our town and helps our town. So then the final one, there are additional functions, not revenue-based, our daily closeouts. Each assistant clerk is responsible for that, as are we. Monthly revenue reports that go to our vital records register at the state, Secretary of State's office, the tax revenue, record retention and deposition. And again, I can't say it enough, we are mandated to follow RSAs. So that just gives you a little idea. And thank you for listening, because we don't really get to talk much about what all of those assistant clerks, all of us do in our office.
Before you jump off of that, can you just talk a little bit more about the how you said you've been doing this for 11 years, how the complexity of the work involving elections has changed pretty significantly, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. The world of right to knows, the world of naysayers, transparency, which is a good thing, but it can also be a gotcha mode at times, because we are all humans dealing with these things, and long days, and many face-fronting people. People are coming in with all different needs. Mistakes can be made, will be made. So it's a different world. I think 11 years ago, people were a little bit more forgiving about things and understanding. We also didn't have the social media hit areas that we do now. One mistake, and it's going to end up on Facebook, or it's going to end up on Insta, this or that, and it can be hurtful, because we're all people, all humans. But it has changed, and also the legislation can change. Some of you who are part of our representatives in Concord know that. We had a change just recently, absentee ballots. So our wonderful team that knows how to do absentee ballots, what application has to be used, how to retain it, how to get it back, how to send out that ballot. That just changed. So now we have to follow a completely different process. You've probably heard of it. An ID is required now. That changes things up, and it also frustrates some people. Some people think it's wonderful. Other residents think that it's not, and we have to hear that. And more importantly, we have to make sure that we follow the law on it. So, Sean, that's a great question. Also, our population has changed, and we have more registered voters. We have, our same polling place at this point, but there's just a lot more awareness, and awareness is a great thing. As a past teacher, you can't put a price on how valuable education is, but that's all of our job, to make sure that we are educating the public on all of these different things. Sorry, got on a tangent. But anyway, sorry. So, yes, great question, though. Things have definitely changed, much of it for the better. And then other things that we just have to follow.
But the point is that the job has become more complex, and the tasks take longer to accomplish, is what I was trying to get at with that, right? Because of the new voting statutes that were passed.
Oh, my goodness, certainly, yeah, absolutely. Oh, and to continue then, we were just ending with the additional functions that are not revenue-based, and we talked about those already. So we'll just go to the next slide. And Allison, you're on.
So this slide is just to give you an idea of how it's changed over the past 10 years and what comes into our office. So you can see like car registrations, in 2015 we were at about 8.9 million. We're up to 13.8 million right now. Boat registrations we didn't have a few years ago, but we became agents to be able to register boats, and that brought in about $40,000 last year. Property taxes for 2025, $101 million, and that goes out over about 20,800 bills. So, 10,400 semi-annually. The quarterly sewer bills, we're bringing in about 2.6 million, and we send out about 1,850 per quarter. So 4 times a year, those go out. Our office alone, not including doing the property taxes, we do over 50,000 transactions per year, and that's what comes through our door. And that's, like I said, that doesn't include New World, which is like building permits, invoices from police department, and it doesn't include the property taxes, which like I said, is over 20,000 in billing a year. So, anybody any questions on that?
For the dog registrations, is it that we have more dogs or that we increase price?
We definitely have more dogs.
COVID had a lot to do with that,
Yes.
Counselor Combs, yes, yeah. Good question, though. And it does bring in quite a bit of revenue, which is really good. And then the civil forfeitures, of course, that when someone hasn't paid their dog registration, state mandated $25 per dog. It's shocking how much extra revenue that brings in to the town, too. Not that we want to do it, but legally we have to.
I think we're up to, you said 5,900 dogs? Yeah.
5,900?
Any other questions?
Wow.
Yeah, it does go back and forth. Sadly, we gain dogs, and then sadly, we have the calls where people have lost their dogs. Dogs have passed or just moved out of town. And then two major needs that we have. Item one, of course, we are front-facing. We're on the front lines. We're the first group that is often noticed or recognized. Even when people are just lost in the hallway, they come to us, and sometimes assessing too. But our office security for our entire team, and then just, I know we put that picture up there of our office. All of you have been in and noticed things, but that plexiglass Steve Cotton put in during COVID to protect us from germs, because we were still in the building every day at that time offering services the best we could back then. And just many other things with it, just some basic facelifts to our office, but the security being the number one there. Just safety, we do have our different issues. We hear about them across the state. And then item two, that is part of our budget. You'll see this is not something I want to do because I love the look of our voting booths, but unfortunately our wonderful team over at the high school, our custodians, putting them together. Some of them now are, the metal is bending. You might have noticed yourself, you went in to vote, a curtain falls, or there's a little bend in the metal. So we need to be realistic, and for safety too. We have to start looking at replacing those. And my ask on this is that I think if we do it in three parts over the next 3 years, perhaps 50 voting booths per year, that's something that we could manage. And the custodians are wonderful about picking the safe ones out versus the ones that aren't. If you have any questions too, I don't want to go on. Joe? Yes.
Yeah, just quick
Sure.
with this, Sherry. Just what are the cost items for these, the cost of each of these items?
Sean, I'll defer to you on the item number one, and I know you're already looking into item number one for us, and it's been quite a center of discussion.
Yeah, so as you know, our capital improvements plan is, shall we say, not well detailed. So I've asked Dave Wally to actually put together some numbers on that, but it's not just a matter of the glass, because actually the door's a perfect example. I could put all the ballistic glass I want in there, but if you can walk through that door, it defeats that entire system. So it has to be looked at carefully, methodically, and I don't make quick decisions that would be unwise. You can go and armor up a whole place, and someone's just going to go around it. The French did that in World War II, the Maginot Line. The Germans just went around it. So they spent all that money and effort, and it really ended up with nothing. So anyway, that's in process. I don't have any money budgeted for that this year.
Okay.
So it's where I can find money here to there. The reality is that's what we have to do with a lot of things.
So, well, before you continue,
Yeah.
I guess that answers my question right now. So these items are currently not in the budget.
There's money in there for voting booths.
Okay.
So there's money for that. There's a tabulator in there I talked about. They asked for two. I
Right.
put one in there in my version of the budget. And it looks like we just went forward, so you could probably remove that other one.
Okay. Thank you.
If I remember correctly, Dave Wally had presented numbers on this, I believe, last year for the
glass.
the glassed area, and I think it was about 20,000-ish, maybe 25 at most,
I don't.
but not for what we're really fully looking to do for security.
If you're going to do it, you want to make it work, right?
Yep,
You want to
exactly.
be able to create time and shielding, right?
Yep.
To allow people to be able to get away, right?
Right.
There's no Fort Knox, right? So the idea is you want to slow somebody down, give these folks time to be able to escape, because they're the main target, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's where the money is, right? And that's where people tend to get angry because they have to pay their taxes there, for those who are going to be at the extreme end of things. Now, fortunately, we haven't had anything like that since Newbury, the Newbury Town Hall incident that dates back several decades now. But we do have them across this country, and we do need to make sure, there's a state law that requires us to have a safe workplace, and we know that a threat exists. We've got to take the appropriate steps to resolve that, and like I said, we're in the process of doing that. But it's going to be more than $20,000 to do that, because like I said, if I have doors open, then they're just going to go around.
Right.
So you've got to think about it more holistically before you put such measures in. It's not just physical measures and money, it's also how we operate on a daily basis. So I want to have a comprehensive strategy in how we're going to do that, and not spend what money we do have wisely.
Of course.
Has other towns done this?
Oh, yes, I did that where I just was.
I figured, I just want to know, like, if that price range is in line.
It's not.
Okay.
Dan has a question.
Voting booths, how many do we have now? Are we increasing the amount?
No, the plan really isn't to increase them, Dan. Right now, we have at least stations for about 160 booths, which would accommodate the 18,000-ish registered voters that we have. My problem with the voting booths right now, as I was saying, is that these do the job well, it's confidential, the curtain, the space inside. This company, Douglas, has gone out of business, and what exists, I'm not a big fan of. It's more of a stationary. We did try a sample one a few years back, and there would be 4 voters around voting, but we don't have any other options. At the conference last week, there's still nothing new out there. The cost on those, for the single ones that you can buy from this company, it's about $400 per booth. And then if you went with one of the 4 ones, it can be like $500 to $600. The representative is willing to work with us, and certainly if the more you buy, the better pricing you get on it. But it is something that we need to look at down the road. If that answered the question on the cost
other
of the
questions?
booths.
All right.
Have like a volunteer do that, like, that seems ridiculous. I don't know who.
Volunteering? Continue.
Well, thank you. And then this is our, I guess it's kind of a little brag sheet that we put together. And Allison, do you want to speak to this one?
Sure. So it's a lot of what we had on 2 slides ago, but it just breaks it out a little bit more for you. For instance, in point of sale, we broke out the marriage license and marriage ceremony. New World, which is permits, like I said, miscellaneous invoices, police, we're at almost 7.5 million. And again, back to the marriage licenses and ceremonies, you don't think that is a large amount that it brings in, but when you break it out of the point of sale, you see that it's actually a pretty decent amount that we bring in just for marriage licenses and marriage ceremonies.
So the clerks have taken the initiative to do an infographic, which is what I want to do with all of our budgets going next year, to be able to transmit information more succinctly in a way that people can absorb it without sitting here and looking through all these lines, drive yourself crazy. So they've taken the initiative to lead the way to get the first infographic out, and there will be others with every department going forward in the future.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you. It was a learning curve, but it was kind of exciting to try something new based on your initiative, so thank you.
Any questions for the town clerk or the tax collector?
I have one thing I need to go over. Do you have another slide? You're done. I think you're done.
No, that's our last
Right.
one.
So can you
Thank you.
pull up, Kirsten, the page 2 of the clerk's budget? So while she's doing that, this is not something that the clerk asked for, but it's one of those things that I insisted that we put in here. As I indicated in my presentation on Saturday, we are the 9th largest community in the state. We're larger than half of the cities. Our clerk is listed as a part-time employee running a staff that, well, you saw a picture of all of them and the amount of money that's coming through here. I would suggest to you that this is not a part-time position. It is a full-time professional position. In 2014, there was a warrant article that said the position is part-time. Elected officials are not full-time or part-time. It doesn't work that way, but that's what the warrant article said, and that the clerk would receive no benefits. The clerk has not received a raise in 3 years. She hasn't asked for one, but it's somebody's responsibility to ensure that that is taken care of, and that's my job. So that's what I am doing here. I am making up for the lost time so that has occurred in the last 3 years to make sure we catch up for the cost of living increases that the other employees of the town received, so that the clerk receives them as well. And also, and that's just the COLA, not what the merit would be, because you can't give merit to an elected official anyway. But I have accounted for that same amount other employees would get going into that next year. So that more closely brings up the salary to where it would be, although it's clearly not. Where I left, the clerk serves a city of 16,000 people. This clerk serves a municipality of 27,000. It's growing much faster. And that clerk up there makes $125,000 a year and receives full benefits like most. I'm looking around trying to find any other community, even closely in size, that doesn't provide full-time benefits to their clerk. It's quite embarrassing, quite frankly, to tell you that, in the job that this is clearly a full-time job. I'm looking for communities that don't provide NHRS retirement benefits like those other communities and health insurance benefits like those other communities. And I'm having a hard time actually finding them. Even the smaller towns are providing full-time benefits to their clerk. So I have put money in here to do that. Now, there's a couple of complexities with that. It has to be very clearly in the budget. That's why I have separated it out. That's why you see it from the other, separated from the other salary, so the voters clearly understand when they approve a budget, that this is what's in that budget. The part two of that, because there was a warrant article in 2014 that said that the clerk will not receive full-time benefits, I am proposing a warrant article in the FY27 warrant that says that the town clerk will receive the same benefits as other full-time employees. If the clerk is in the NHRS system, the clerk must work full-time hours. It's not an option. Otherwise, they have to be removed from the retirement system. So, because nobody controls the hours of the clerk, the town council doesn't, I don't. The clerk works for the people. And however many hours it takes to do that, that clerk has to do that. And I would suggest to you, this is a pretty busy town clerk's office. So I am the one who's proposing that. She has not. She hasn't done it in 3 years. But I am doing that, and I am pushing that forward as it is. It's in the budget this way, and there's that warrant article to do that.
So this is a logistical question. If that's going to be put on the warrant, shouldn't the funds for the benefits be tied to the warrant? Or is that because of legally it has to be tied, it has to be in the budget already in order to do that?
There's two ways to do it. You could do the whole thing by warrant article, or, and there's a legal opinion on this from NHMA, they can be placed in the budget as long as they are clearly delineated. This is just the salaries that you see in the budget here, and then the insurance benefits are also listed in there. So if that warrant article doesn't pass, we will not be able to provide the NHRS, the retirement benefits, or the health insurance benefits, but the salary will be approved as long as the budget's approved.
But will the funding for that, the benefits, still be in the budget?
Yes.
That's why
They are.
why wouldn't we tie that to the warrant article so that if it does fail, we're not having it sit in the budget?
Because then it's a one-time item.
Gotcha. Okay,
That's
that
why it
makes
should be in
sense.
the budget. If it's a warrant article, it's a one-time item, so.
Any questions at all for
Yeah,
tax
I'm-
collector? Good.
I'm
Yeah.
a little confused.
Good then.
So I've heard many times here that the clerk is elected, and you can't be a town employee and be an elected official at the same time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't understand. If you could explain it to me, that'd be fine. I just don't understand. Because, I mean, I'm an elected official. Should I be getting a raise? Should I be getting health insurance? I put in a lot of hours.
I haven't proposed one for you.
Well, not just me. I meant like any even the budget committee for that
They
matter.
don't get paid at all. I have not proposed any increases for councilors. That's a decision that you have to make,
No, I'm just asking, why don't they all function the same?
because they don't. The law is
Why?
different.
They're not the same office?
It's not the same office, exactly. This is a.
That's
this-
what I'm asking. There was no need to be sarcastic about it. I
I'm
was
not being sarcastic.
Just
You
trying
asked
to
me a question, I
understand.
answered it. So this is a full-time position. This person works full-time. We're the size of half the cities. It's a complex job that they have to do every day, Monday through Friday. The governor is a full-time position. The governor gets a salary. She's elected. So it's the same sort of scenario. Elected officials who are going to be working full-time need to be compensated. And the way you do that, there's a couple of different options to do that. There's a warrant article, or you can put it in the budget and you saw the article that I sent to all of you, the options to do that.
I'm just trying to understand, and I'm doing this because, as you know, and everybody in here knows, very well aware, people have brought this up. And I'm trying to make sure that the information gets out there to kind of diffuse or, push aside some of these questions. That's why I'm bringing it up, because it needs real clarification, because there are people who are questioning. So I understand that the governor gets it, but the governor gets elected with people knowing what the salary is.
Do you know what it is? Because I don't.
I think it was 100 and Sununu's was 130 something. And then he got a raise.
But there's no line item in the budget like there is for the clerk, for the governor. Probably somewhere on page 11,036. But in the clerk's budget, we have delineated it out especially just for the clerk.
Okay.
So that's why it's in there that way, and that's exactly what NHMA recommended that we do. So it's clear to the voters that this is what the salary is going to be of that clerk. If you look up further, you'll see all the salaries mixed in, and that's what the clerk's salary was. We have no idea what the clerk gets paid.
Okay.
That's why I broke it out on page 2, what Justin did, as I asked him to. So it's clearly delineated what the clerk receives for benefits and what those cost items are.
Okay. So because she is elected, but she doesn't have to work 40 hours.
If she wants NHRS benefits, she does.
But she still gets the salary of working 40. So, and I'm not saying you'd do this, Sherry. I know you wouldn't. But I know there are clerks out there. One of them, I believe, is in Hollis that works, I don't know, 1 day a week or 1 day a week for a year and gets $80,000-$90,000 a year. I'm just,
I know the case you're talking about.
Just trying to explain and understand.
And Deb, also, that's an anomaly, but well over that amount, I think, with full benefits.
But that's my point.
But as Sean said, the clerk's position is one where, I dictate my hours based on what needs to be done, which is a full-time job. I don't know if this helps at all, and remember, we're not talking about me, we're talking about the town clerk
It is
position.
not you.
Right.
It's anybody who gets
and I
elected
understand,
there.
Deb, and I appreciate that. But in a room of, as I started our conversation with, 240 town and city clerks represented across the state, and the question was asked in one of our meetings, what clerks receive benefits, retirement, and every hand went up. When the same question was asked in reverse, no one's hand that I'm aware of that I saw. And truly, people are shocked. And again, I don't want to talk as Sherry Farrell talking about the town clerk position, but as Sean said, people are truly, and shocked is the only word I have at this time, but that the town of Londonderry, population 28,000, that the town clerk position does not receive retirement and benefits. And that's across the state of New Hampshire, and you can each verify that. In some of the very small towns where the population is excessively low, there are towns where the population is 5,000 people only. The clerks work full-time because that's what this position deems, whether you have 5,000 or 30,000, and they receive full benefits and retirement. And that's why I appreciate that Sean's bringing this forward for the position. Because, again, this is across the state. This is not a Londonderry ask. But it is noted that, it in many ways, how it just doesn't seem to make sense.
The other part of it is unfortunately, Sherry will not be here forever. And we've got to make this job attractive to someone who actually knows what they're doing, hopefully, and can run for the position and be able to live on the salary that's going to go along with that. She could leave during the middle of her term. She could leave at the end of it. She hasn't talked about leaving, but the point is, at some point she's going to. None of us are going to be here forever. And we need to have qualified people to be able to do this work. Because even though it's an elected position, it's not an elected position that's making policy. It's an elected position that's carrying out a task, a skilled task that needs to be accomplished at the end of the day.
Dan has a question. Oh, sorry.
I just want to finish what I was saying. So I understand, and you and I were on the same page, and that's good. My question is, what fail-safes can we as a town put in place? God forbid, 10 years, Cherry's gone, somebody's new's in, and they do what this lady in Hollister's doing. What can we do as a town to make sure that we're getting, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Believe me, I know what you're trying to say. So the only way you can do it is you have to cut the money out of the budget. That's the only way you can cut that person's salary out of this. You'd have to cut it out of the budget, which you can do.
Okay. And you can do that like at any time?
You can do that, the council.
Well, I can't. I don't live in Hollis.
Don't worry, we don't care about what's going on in Hollis, but if the clerk
No, I understand
decided
what
I'm
you're
going to
saying.
work 1 hour a day, one day a week, then the council would say, okay, at the next council meeting, we're going to motion to take the salary of $82,000. We're going to reduce that to $5,000. We're going to transfer that money, and we're going to use it for tabulators and those sorts of things. So that's what the count, because I don't have the authority to do that. You have the authority to move money around within the budget.
Okay.
So you can do that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there was some way to protect ourselves.
There isn't a whole lot, because that's the vagaries of having an elected position. I'm not going to get into whether that's a good idea or not. That's a decision the legislature made. The clerk does not work for you, and the clerk does not work for the town manager. It only works for the people. And no one can tell her or him what their hours are going to be, or what they're going to do during those hours, whether they're going to work at home, whether they're going to work in the building. That's just the way it is. So that's the situation we have, and should we make the best of that? We have to, right? We got to provide services to the people of this community, and I don't see her working from home or doing those sorts of things. She's generally in her office. Anyway, but then again, if she leaves, somebody else could come in, and we could have a problem with because you don't look at the resume of the person running for clerk.
Right.
You get what you get, whatever the people choose to elect. And do we want to make it attractive for people if they're going to run for that office? To be able to say, you know what, I can do that because I can live on the salary that's going to be provided for that, or not.
Dan had a question.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Question and kind of, I think, clarification from the town manager. So, we have a town clerk, and we have this salary, and the town clerk decides, I'm only going to work 10 hours a week. If that happens, then that person would no longer be eligible for New Hampshire retirement system, correct?
Yeah, because we cannot pay into that system. We would be fined for doing that.
So that individual has to work X amount of hours to qualify for New Hampshire retirement system.
Yes.
So that's kind of a little safety net that the town could have.
It's not exactly a safety net, because that person could just decide not to do it and then work the 30 seconds a week if they.
Right, and then
so
we could
choose.
address it the other way.
It's an incentive, but then we could address it. the
Yeah,
other
we could
way.
address it the other way. Right. So the other thing is, there's two options to do this: in the budget or warrant article.
If it's a warrant article, you don't get to cut it. She's going to get that salary no matter what.
Okay.
You got to remember that. If the voters pass that. So then the clerk says, I'm only going to work 10 hours a week, but I'm going to get X amount of dollars because that's what the voters approved.
And that's what I want everybody here to understand. So,
This allows you to exercise a certain degree of control. If you have a rogue clerk, which we don't have, but if you did, then you have some degree of control. Otherwise, you don't.
thank you.
Probably on the same line. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, Mr. Town Manager, if you could clarify for me, pardon my ignorance on this, but I'm looking at NHMA since you mentioned it, and it says here in a legal, I'll call it a legal Q&A, municipal officials have their compensation set by town meeting, full stop. This may either be through a separate warrant article, as you said, or through a dedicated line in the detailed chart of accounts in the budget, which you have here shown us. And then it says, once compensation is set by town meeting, the official quote-unquote earns that compensation regardless of the number of hours actually worked. I don't see a differentiation there that would allow the town council in one circumstance, if on the budget line item, to adjust the compensation versus it's on a warrant article. Can you help me understand why the town council would have that authority?
Because in the case of the warrant article, the people said the clerk is going to get paid X amount of dollars, and that the clerk has to be compensated no matter what hours they work. The town council does have the authority to move budget lines as it deems appropriate in there because it's part of the budget, and it doesn't talk about the amount of hours. All you're doing here is appropriating a budget. It's up to them. Once the voters pass a budget, and they pass a bottom line budget, of course, it's up to the council and the manager how it's to be spent.
Thank you.
That's the difference. And that's why I set it up this way.
Any other questions for tax collector or for the town clerk?
Oh, are we doing the line items here, or are we waiting for that?
No, I wanted to go, I wanted this to be abundantly clear how this is going to work, so everybody knows it. And that's what the intent was in that article, was to make sure that people understood what we were doing. When we get to deliberative session, I'll be talking about this in the context of that warrant article as well. So it's very clear, if anybody who's listening, that's exactly what we are proposing to do.
Dan
About
has a
that?
question.
Another question. So now we've addressed the town clerk. I want to address the tax collector, okay? The tax collector is appointed by the council, correct?
Correct.
The tax collector reports to town manager?
Nope,
No.
Clerk.
Reports to the town council?
nope,
Reports to who?
nobody. They're appointed. So they maintain office, and during the tenure of their office, unless there's some reason to remove them, they don't actually answer to anybody.
And it's on a year-to-year basis.
Yes.
I, as one person, would like for us to look into something different, because I'll tell you what, I don't think anybody here would like to try to plan their future being appointed year to year. I think I'd like to see the town manager, if everybody would be okay with that, to look at options. You know, maybe we do a 3-year, but even if that person is appointed by us, I think that person should be reporting to somebody. I just think it's right that someone oversees someone.
So I'll disagree with that, and here's why. The average person working doesn't have a contract that even keeps them on for a year. Anybody can be let go tomorrow. So how do people plan their life knowing their job might not be there? In the end of the day, the council changes over year after year after year, and I wouldn't want to encumber future councils on if they do or don't want to appoint a tax collector. By doing it 1 year, we're doing it on us as a body of 5 people agree to it. The next body of 5 people might not. And it might be a different person, something. And also to protect against what we had talked about, what Deb had brought out before. Let's say we get the worst case scenario and a bad tax collector who, only wants to work a minute a week. At least, that next year we can go, that's over. Not, we're stuck for 3 years of this. That's a long lock-in period.
Yeah, I agree. I prefer 1 year.
I don't know if there's any other options, that's why I'm asking the town.
This issue is going to come up again when we do the municipal code, update the municipal code, because you've got a whole bunch of people that don't exist. They don't belong to any department, and there's no clear definition in the municipal code as to who's in charge of those people down there, whether it's the clerk or it's the tax collector. It doesn't say. So you're going to be faced with this issue. I'm putting it in front of you because they don't even exist in the municipal code right now. In January, so you'll have to decide how you want to handle that moving forward. And there's a range of options. I think what you're talking about is what are the options? That's what you asked about.
Yep.
And there's certainly a range of options to deal with that, but that's really for January.
Deb, you had.
Well, I was, just to go on what Dan was saying, what you were just saying, so we gotta wait till January, but I mean, do other towns have like an employee that is the tax?
Yes.
That, like, they're just a regular employee, they're not like a hope that they get appointed every year?
We don't
just
have any
get-
regular, we have extraordinary employees here, so I know what you meant, though. They're considered an employee, they're not an appointed official, they're not an elected official, yes. Town of Pembroke does
So
it
didn't
that
we
way.
used to have that?
I don't know what you had before.
Like when,
Yep.
I thought we did, I mean,
We did.
and then I think it got taken over with Meg Seymour took it as the clerk, and then it got divided to save money, and I don't know. It
But
got
either way,
over-
those are not really items for the budget discussion.
I know,
mean-
I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
trying
I
to.
get
Back to the budget.
Yeah, so January, that really is gonna, you're gonna have to decide, you're gonna have to tell me what you wanna do. So January is,
So
that's
you're gonna
coming.
give us those options to look at?
Well, I'm not gonna give you options, I'm telling you the existing situation, and you're either gonna tell me, come back with a range of options,
Okay.
or you're gonna do something, I don't know what you're
God
gonna do.
bless.
I mean,
It's-
I'd
These
like to
people don't answer to me, so I can't, it's not for me to go dictate how they're gonna operate.
Option for January. You know?
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, so we're going to take that up in January?
Yeah, I'd just like to have him come back in January with ranges of options when he presents that.
Is that what you
Yes.
want me to do?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good, you good?
I mean, I
It
think
doesn't hurt to look at it.
we've got to, it doesn't hurt to look at it, but I think we've got to think about what we want. Every time we come up with a new idea, we can't just go, hey, Sean, you figure it out and come back to us. I think we should take some of the responsibility on ourselves and think about what we want to do with it and try to come up with some things too as well.
I think if he comes in with some options, then we can discuss all the options and look at it.
Just trying to be efficient.
I just don't have the time to go and try to figure it out. He's the expert.
All right, do you have an opinion, Ted, or you?
I think we should move along with the budget.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, let's leave this for a different day.
Let's move on with the budget.
Anything about the clerk?
Any other budgetary questions for the town clerk or the tax collector?
Yeah,
Good.
the furniture and fixtures and property,
Okay.
why is there $9,200? What, is that for your
It was
windows?
removed.
It's not in there.
Removed by me.
Yeah, it was removed. We did
Oh,
put in
it's still
for it,
here.
Deb,
I'm
but,
sorry.
yeah. but
So-
I was confused.
On your spreadsheet, you'll see, if you look up there, it's department budget, town manager budget, and then town council budget. So the department budget is what the department heads proposed. The town manager then reviewed it and made decisions on where to cut. And going forward, when the town council makes any decisions on where to cut, where to add, anything of that nature, the town council budget will be adjusted. But as of right now, the town manager and town council budget are the same because there's been no direction on where to move things.
All right, I'm sorry.
So the tabulator is just the other thing you're going to want to consider when you start to do your deliberations, because there's one in there, and obviously we're going to buy them in FY26. You don't need that other one.
We can take that out.
So when we get to that point, you could just keep that in the back of your mind. We'll remind you.
The other question is printing services. You didn't have anything, and now you have $18,416 even.
So I'm not a fan of management services.
Huh?
I'm not a fan of the account line management services. So you'll see in a couple departments that line has decreased and the appropriate line has been added to the department's budget. So what that is our tax envelope bills, the printing of the sewer bills, things of that nature, which to me, printing services was a better home for it than management services. And if you look, we have historically overspent it because we have not been budgeting appropriately for it.
Thank you, Justin. That was always a vague area that was always hard for a lot of people to understand. So thank you for reclassifying a lot of these expenses.
All right. I just, because it just appeared. I'm like,
And it's a significant
It is, it is.
wow,
It shows that you're paying attention to the budget.
I don't have enough money to pay attention. Go ahead. Anything else?
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you all very much, too. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Finance.
Next, we're going to talk about finance, the people that control the money.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How is everybody?
Good.
So, as you guys are aware, I'm Justin Campo. I am the finance director. The finance department consists of me, my controller, the finance and payroll coordinator, and a finance assistant. The general overview is we deal with all the accounts payable, accounts receivable, the budget preparation and monitoring, all the cash management. We make sure that we're in compliance with the state and federal regulations, any donations we receive, any grants we receive, as well as performing our annual financial audit. We also have our debt management. We manage the general ledger system. As I mentioned before, we have a grant accounting compliance that we make sure of. If we hit the certain threshold, we have a single audit, which audits specifically just the grants. We also process payroll, and we handle some of the risk management. Over the past year, we issued about 210 payroll checks per week. That's about 10,920. We had about 5,028 accounts payable transactions, 2,682 journal entries, and we issued 260 W-2s.
Justin, I got a question on payroll.
Yes.
I hear people sometimes say, why don't we outsource that? Would that save the taxpayers money or not?
We've looked at this several times, and the answer has historically been no, because you still need somebody to provide that information to the people you're outsourcing payroll for. So the only thing you're cutting out is us submitting the direct deposit to our bank, which takes minimal time.
Thank you.
So our department's a little bit different than others, where we're mainly supporting other operations. We help provide financial insight to all the departments to help them achieve their goals and work within their budgetary restraints. We work with the Department of Revenue and the federal government for compliance to make sure that we have all the necessary federal filings as well as the necessary state paperwork done. We maximize the opportunities that we can. As you guys were aware previously, we brought forward a new banking proposal that would lower our the amount that we get charged by the bank, as well as we were able to leverage that to better our leasing agreement and get a lower interest rate for that going forward. We also have utilized different payment modes to increase our credit card rebate as well as receive ACH premium dividends. We work with the town manager, yourself, budget committee regarding the financial outlook and the current budget statuses. We also work to ensure that the financial stability of the town is secure and that we're not dealing with a crisis situation as other communities may be.
Justin, I just want to say on supporting town operations.
Yes.
What you did for the fire department to finance that PPE equipment, I think was phenomenal.
Thank you.
That was thinking out of the box, and that was saving the taxpayers' money as well.
As well as
And
putting the
saving our
safety of
lives.
them first, which is great.
Yep, protecting them. Thank you.
So operational challenges. You guys have heard me for a while now say that our ERP system, if, I was raised, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything, so I'll leave it at that. But essentially, we've been informed they're no longer selling it. So when a company stops selling the product but still servicing it, there's a good chance the service is going to go shortly. They've told us they will give us plenty of advance notice. However, it's a big company, and we are the only community in New Hampshire that currently uses it. So they will give us notice. I can't guarantee how long.
Can I ask what it is? I should know this by now.
It's New World ERP.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a Tyler Technologies product. They bought it from New World at the time, and they've since just kind of maintained it. And they, I think 2-3 years ago, informed us they're no longer selling it.
The problem we face with that is the lead time is about 18 months to get a new system up and operational, and you want to do it at the start of a new year, not in the middle of a year. My concern is that eventually they're not going to provide the security patches for it. I mean, as it is, they're not going to provide updates. That's one thing which creates problems. But when they don't provide security patches any longer, then we'll get some real serious problems. Obviously, there's a lot of financial information in there. And I think more importantly is it doesn't do the things we need to do in the modern world in terms of being able to model budgets, project out long-term. It's not user-friendly for people to operate at all, and it needs to be. We're going to talk about building permit fees. I should be able to tell you that what's the revenue projection of the rate changes that the council made. I can't do that with the system I have. I can't provide it to Patrick, for instance, to be able to go and do his own modeling, which I should be able to do. A modern system does that, right? And it doesn't tie itself to strategic objectives or any of that. So we clearly need it. We're at the end of the red line here in terms of getting a new software program. We have to do this. It's not going to be cheap, but we really need to leap into that. We have to bite the bullet and do it, and that's what we're in the process of doing.
That's why you'll see in one of the warrant articles for the IT capital reserve, you'll see a bump up in that to assist with the cost of it to limit what it impacts going forward. Yep. The other operational challenge is the just time availability. Where there's only 4 of us, we're overseeing a good amount of money and making sure it's properly invested. We assist every department to make sure that they get their goals needed and that they stay within line. As well as I like to think that I've been very accessible to the public, and I try to answer questions that sometimes I don't know why I got the phone call, but I try to point them in the right direction. And I mean, I've received phone calls from people outside as well that, the town of Derry, hey, in Londonderry, how do you guys do this and this and that? And which I try my best to help make sure everybody is there, but there's only so many hours in the day and there's a good amount to do.
Sorry, question back to the ERP. Do you know what system you're going to go to? It takes a while.
It takes a while. We've been looking at several, and we're going to go and do more research once the budget is a little bit more calm. And starting in January, we're going to really start to look. That way we can get a better understanding and not just jump into something to jump into it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thanks.
I guess I jumped ahead a little bit here, but essentially what we're looking forward to is improving the efficiency and financial knowledge within the town departments. As I mentioned, replacing our outdated and aging ERP system, and we're going to continue to improve the budget process. You've seen quite a few changes this year so far. There's going to be significantly more going forward as well. I hope to continue utilizing the capital reserve funds with the intention of limiting the tax impact for future years, which is going back to the PPE, a situation where we're able to do something like that because of what we've been doing with the capital reserves. And I'm looking to continue to be a trusted resource for the public. As I've said repeatedly, and people have probably got tired of me saying it, you may not like what I have to say, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Because I'd rather have you be mad at me for the truth than a lie.
Amen.
Any questions?
Any questions for Justin from anyone?
Oh, his budget
Wow.
looks really good. It's under.
Imagine that.
He does a good
I
job.
don't know what you do at all.
Wow.
Just one.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, no, just the decrease in salaries. Is that another position that's being reallocated to HR?
Yes.
Okay.
The benefits administrator was typically in ours, and we moved it there. So, I mean, another reason for the HR, you look at it, and one is in town manager, the other is in finance.
All right. All right. Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
Any questions for Justin? All right, thank you, Justin.
Next budget is HR for a department that doesn't even exist yet. So we are hopefully in January you'll create that. Of course, it does exist as a practicality. We have people that are budgeted in two different departments. Strangely enough, you've never had an HR department, and it's not your municipal code, so that'll be spelled out in January. But you clearly have a function, the workforce behind the workforce, and Tara's going to talk about that.
Thank you for that. So thank you for having me. As the town manager mentioned, this is the first year that Human Resources has been invited to this party, so I appreciate the invitation. I hope I feel that way after my 6 minutes is up, but we'll see how it goes. Just to provide a little bit of an introduction in terms of your current Human Resources department. So we have 2 full-time employees in the department. I myself am the HR director, and we have a human resources administrator as well. And what you'll hear through this presentation is that we're really seeking to add some resources in terms of personnel to help support all the initiatives that HR handles. Okay, so on this next slide, I wanted to go over a little bit about what we're asking for. So we are essentially seeking to hire 2 part-time positions. The first is going to be a human resources assistant, and that person is really going to come on board in the hopes of managing our really high volume paperwork and administrative work. There's a lot of it that comes with our day-to-day function in HR, and we could certainly use some assistance in that area. And having an assistant come in and handle that work would really free up our staff to focus on the high-level legal and strategic duties, which are currently really being delayed by all of the paperwork that we're managing. The second position that we have on there is our HR specialist, and this position would handle complaints, background checks, and legally mandated investigations. The specialist, to me, is really our risk mitigation tool. Highly important role. This person would conduct the neutral, comprehensive, and really all investigations that are required by law and required by town policy. So this is a function that I see that we are critically under-resourced to perform right now, and again, something that's truly essential. So the total cost that you'll see on there is just under $103,000. And as I'll discuss as I move forward, the cost of not funding these positions would be substantially higher than that. Okay, so moving on to the next slide here, I wanted to talk a little bit about the objectives and how they tie into the budgetary relevance of these asks. So a very important objective for me in the HR role is legal compliance and risk management. This is something we deal with every day in the HR office. So without an HR specialist, we face a direct and growing liability. So when an employee complaint of harassment or misconduct is filed, the town has a legal duty to act and to act swiftly. If we fail to investigate a complaint in a timely manner, we face very potential legal issues, complaints, compliance problems, fines, et cetera, et cetera. So we're exposed to lawsuits, fines, and significant reputational damage by failing to act. The legal benefit is clear for me. The specialist ensures we meet the legal standard. They are our due diligence, our insurance policy, and our proof that we take employee rights and safety seriously. The assistant supports this objective by creating and maintaining really meticulous files, so our personnel files, all of our HR documentation. Those are the evidence that we provide if we do have a lawsuit. We need to make sure that we have all of the documentation handled and ready to go, and having an assistant who's dedicated to assuring that would really be something that would benefit the department. In terms of fostering positive employee relations, having an HR assistant to triage messages as they come in would be incredibly helpful. So again, with two of us in the HR office, we get people coming in person, phone calls, text, emails, day and night. You know, we support the employees who support this town. So they are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're getting messages 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's tough sometimes to answer and respond to every message in a timely manner, but it's something that is really important to us. So if we had an HR assistant on the front line to triage those messages, that would allow us to focus on all of our other daily tasks and would be incredibly helpful. Another issue that we face is processing of paperwork. So when you look at the paperwork that comes with every single personnel change, so that could be a merit increase, a promotion, an added certification, somebody's got to process that paperwork. Somebody has to process every benefits form that comes through. And we support 220 employees and 65 retirees. So we have 65 retirees who take our insurance. We don't often talk about those folks. There's one raising his hand right there. But to me, they're such an important part of our population here. And I know that myself and the HR administrator do everything we can to provide top-level support to them as well as to our current employees. But the amount of time that literally one person, the HR administrator takes on processing these payroll forms, benefits forms, it's really extensive. So freeing up some of that time so that position can focus on higher level initiatives is really the goal that we're looking for. And then finally, having an HR assistant to manage recruitment logistics would allow the HR staff, again, to focus more on the strategic level of hiring and recruitment and retention issues, as opposed to being bogged down in the administrative piece of that.
So before we go too much further on this, I just want to highlight some of these points again. In some cases, we're already spending this money, and we're doing it not in the most efficient way. When we have to do a sexual harassment investigation, I'm contracting out and I'm paying over $100 an hour to do that. We're going to be paying significantly less by doing it and having our own staff do it. Or I'm using a law firm, and now you've just increased the cost by about 10 times when that has to be done. So in many cases, we're already spending this money. In the case, we had to hire somebody temporary this year just to be able to process and in-process election workers, because we don't have the staff to do that. We've got a number of issues that the HR director is not able to provide the necessary oversight, which is causing a bunch of other problems for us that are going to get us in trouble, because if she's running around trying to respond to this or that or processing paperwork for benefits, she can't do the higher level functions that she actually should be doing. We cannot continue to add staff, not that we've added a lot of staff, but we have added staff, and the support force to be able to maintain that staff is not there to do that. If we don't increase these positions, we should not be increasing any others. We're already at the breaking point. We don't have enough people to support the workforce we already do have. And we've got to make these changes. And right now, I'm spending more money the wrong way to do that when that has to be done. The other part of this, background investigations, I don't know what you assume that happens when we hire employees. And I'm not talking about police department employees because they do their own background investigations, but all the other employees, you probably expect that at least we're going to go to that previous employer and ask questions. Has this employee ever had a sexual harassment complaint? Do they have any substance abuse issues? Are they late for work consistently? We don't have the staff to presently do that. I hate to tell you that. We simply do a New Hampshire criminal records check, one state out of 50. So if they get convicted of a crime in Massachusetts, we're not going to know. We don't have anybody doing background investigations on people because we don't have the staff to do it. Dan, Councilor Bouchard, you had asked about whether or not we do exit interviews, which is a very smart thing to be doing to find out what's going on in your workforce, because people are more likely to talk about that on their way out. They're not going to talk about it. Well, a lot of people won't talk about it when they're existing. We don't do those because we don't have the resources to do those. But those are a common HR practice in a lot of communities to be able to find out what's going on in your organization. I don't have the staff to do that. We do not have a personnel evaluation system that I would classify as such. We need to have that, provide feedback. And what we do have is ancient, to say the least. All that has to be reformed. We are not providing workplace training that you would have across the board. We're doing sexual harassment because Primex provides that. It's actually being done this week, actually. But other than that, we're not doing the supervisory level training that most places would be doing with their staff because we don't have the resources to do that. I can't afford to hire full-time people with the full benefits package, but I'm proposing that we do part-time people for these limited purposes that each one would be assigned to. So that is why this, to me, is the priority item in terms of staffing across the entire town. I cannot continue to operate like this. There are things that are happening that shouldn't be happening, and we're not in compliance with all the laws like we should be, and I don't have an HR director that has the time to be providing that oversight. We are finding about them here and there. We find out about them, and we address them when we do, but that's not the way to do it. Sooner or later, we're going to end up getting fined for things that we're not doing appropriately. So we've got to address this issue. And as your manager, I'm telling you, this is the resource I need to get that done. And I'm trying to do it in the most cost-effective way. We cannot afford 2 more full-time people. And I don't think we need to either. Eventually, this dynamic is going to change. There's going to be more automation. So I don't want to add that much of a larger workforce, but I do need the part-time people to do these functions until that day comes. And it is coming, and it's coming fairly quickly, but it's not here yet. It still requires human beings to do some of this work. When you do a background investigation, you ask them 22 pages of questions, and you look them in the eye, and you can tell when they're not telling you the truth, or there's more questions you need to ask when you have someone who's trained to do background investigations. That carries a long way. I had a similar position where I came from. 16 people that we interviewed that we were about to hire, we did not. One of those in particular was an IT director. This person was going to have the keys to the castle. And the background investigator, when they interviewed this person, there was something that wasn't quite right. This is an experienced background investigator who worked part-time, asked those questions, and come to find out the person did have a substance abuse problem that was going to create a bunch of issues for us that the person was not addressing. And what happened was that person decided they were going to celebrate the night before they got hired. They went out into a bar and had consumed a lot of alcohol and unfortunately got arrested. They were going to come in on Monday for a further interview to ferret out those questions, and they decided to cancel that interview. That's just one particular example with a real human being of what actually happened that makes that position really valuable. Anyway, so I can't highlight enough the importance of being able to do this. I am doing it anyway. I'm just not spending it in the most efficient way.
Dan has a question before we move on.
I'm very interested in these exit interviews. And because getting this position, is this going to help do that?
Absolutely. So the addition of these 2 positions is really going to free up the current staff that you have in place to take on more of these really important initiatives that we just don't have time to get to. So when I look at what needs to be accomplished from the HR group currently, there are must-dos that are legally required, and there are like-to-dos. Something like exit interviews are important from an HR perspective. We've done them sporadically when there's a need for one in particular that we know that there's an issue. That's not the way to do business. We should have a process in place that everybody gets the same type of exit interview. You should have questions that everybody is asked. I was just reading an article recently about how some organizations are switching over to stay interviews as opposed to exit interviews. And I thought, what a great concept to get to people before they're leaving to find out how they're doing, what their concerns are, what can we do better. These, I have literally a 15-page to-do list, which is my wish list of things I'd like to get to. Exit interviews fall within there. So if I can take some of the time that we're spending on these day-to-day administrative, clerical, really lower level, but important human resources tasks and hand them off to the HR specialist to handle the backgrounds, to the HR assistant to handle all of the administrative paperwork that we're doing, then our time becomes freed up to take on some of those important initiatives that we're not getting to.
I just think it's important that, we do something like this because right now, interviews are conducted by department heads sometimes.
So onboarding interviews.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, even when they leave, the department head might interview them.
Okay.
I'm looking, and I've talked with the chair earlier, well, what I'm looking for is, we're looking right now at people leaving our community who work here to go work in other places, okay? When I worked here, very rarely ever happened, all right? And I just want to know, instead of just throwing money at the problem, what is the problem? Is the problem pay? Might not be pay. Might be benefits. Might be something else. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking so that when we're here budgeting and somebody comes in and says, well, people are leaving because they make more money, over there. I want to see it, and it's just like, my understanding, we might be losing somebody to a town like Hampstead. Wanting there to Hampstead? Seriously? Right. But why? Why is that happening? And I don't want to know the person's name or anything. I just want HR to be able to come to us and say, all right, we've had X amount of employees leave, and this is why they're leaving. They've said this, 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 and this.
That's
So
an
that's what I'm looking for.
excellent point, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. So the way that data is analyzed is through trends, and that needs to be done by consistent exit interviews.
Yep.
So we can absolutely get to the core of why people are leaving, and you made some good points about some of the reasons that you may hear about. It could be benefits, it could be money, it could be culture. We're also looking at this generation of employees, the newer generation of employees, which we have a lot of from the Gen Z group, for example, who are coming on specifically to our police and fire department. And some are leaving after 2 or 3 years. And to your point, 15 years ago, you weren't seeing that. But when you work in a multi-generational workforce like we have here, you're going to see that people approach the workforce differently. And that generation in particular tends to stay in their first job for 3 years, and then they move on to the next job. So what can we do in order to prohibit that? We're seeing it with folks going off to, I'm going to go to Concord or I'm going to go to Nashua because I'd like to go to a bigger city. These are all things that folks of that generation are looking for, a little bit more excitement, a little bit more, sort of entertainment in their workforce. So these are things that we need to know about so that we can come up with programs in order to help retain employees. If we understand why they're leaving, we understand how to keep them. So I agree with you completely.
I think retaining is very important. I mean, we had the fire department here Saturday, and they said, 20 of our employees at the fire department grew up in this town. I think that's amazing, and they decided to stay here and work in this town.
Yeah.
How do we keep them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Deb had a question for you.
I actually have 5.
Oh, all right, wow.
Are they budget related?
Dan.
Yes, they are.
Yay.
I'll stay here as long as we have to get the question. All right, just briefly again, tell me real quickly, how many people did you say you have in your office full-time now?
2.
2 full-time?
Yeah.
And 1 part-time?
No part-time.
No,
So
just 2 full-time?
Yes.
Okay, and can you really quickly tell me, really quickly, the difference between a specialist and a HR director? Like, what is the job description that is different?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll start with the director role. So in the director role, that position has responsibility for all HR functions. So that person is overseeing employee relations, benefits, recruitment, labor negotiations, anything that falls under the HR umbrella. If we are looking to bring on an HR specialist, that's somebody who's going to be working part-time, focused solely on, in this case, investigations, background checks, and really sort of siloed into that particular role.
Okay, that was good, thank you. And just help me understand, you said you take care of 65 retirees?
Yes.
What do you have to do to take care of them? Is it just a one-time thing and then they're gone? Or you have to hold their hand every year and do something for these retirees?
We get old, okay? We need help.
That's an excellent question, Councilor Paul.
I'm trying to understand I'm trying to justify in my mind.
I appreciate the questions, and the answer is, you kind of answered the question yourself. We see both of those, right? So there are some retirees who, the day they retire, they sign their benefits enrollment paperwork, and frankly, we don't hear from them for years. They keep the same plans year after year, and that's the end of it. And then we have some of our really sort of high-frequency retirees who like to call us every time that they hear that there might be a change to the benefit, or they have a question about their plan. How does it work? There's a new prescription plan. My prescription's not covered. What do I do? Who do I call? Or at re-enrollment, benefits enrollment comes along, we get calls from, I'm not going to say almost all of our retirees, but a significant number of our retirees, especially when we have a change in plan, which we had recently with our supplemental Medicare plan.
So you're saying significant. So out of the 65, are you saying like 59 of them call you on a regular basis? Or?
Not on a regular basis. So I would say at benefits re-enrollment time, I'll just throw out maybe 50% of them call.
So that's one time a year you get an influx of calls from these people about their retirement,
That's
correct?
the time we hear from them the most. And then beyond that, if there's a change, if somebody gets married, gets divorced, unfortunately deaths happen, things like that, then they'll come in and they'll ask questions. And then throughout the year, as I said, those questions about coverage. And those are, you can have several per week, you can have none in a given week. It really depends on what's going on in somebody's life, yeah.
So you said something about personnel merit. Now you go from, you can either get it, 0, 3%, 5%, depending on what is the process? Do we ever get somebody who gets 0? What is how many people get 3? How many people get 5? How does that work? What determines that, and how long does that take to do?
Sure. So I don't have the numbers on what percentage gets what percentage of increase. That's something we could look at. So we have several different unions here. So some of them don't have a merit increase that's tied to performance. So let's take our 1801 union, where our DPW employees and our clerk's assistants and some of our other clerical positions here in Town Hall. Those folks get a step increase every year on July 1st. Other unions, like our take police supervisors, for example. They have salary ranges, they have merit increases that are tied to performance. So each year on their anniversary date for some unions, or on a particular date for that union in particular, September 1st, they get a performance evaluation, and their merit increase is tied to their rating on that performance. So they may get up to 3% for that union, for example, and in terms of how it happens, there's some paperwork that needs to take place from there that involves a bunch of signatures being processed, and then it comes through HR. The town manager does sign off on performance evaluations as well as merit increases, and then HR handles getting them into the payroll system, processing.
It almost sounds like these merit raises are pretty much everybody gets them all the time, like they're built in, but
I would
that's
say,
not one of my questions.
I would say that the way your union contracts are written, they probably should be written otherwise, but that's what the towns agree to, and that's what tends to happen, and it tends to be the exception, other than the rule that everybody gets the full amount and not that, and that's how some of them are clearly written in there, and
I kind of
we
have
have
a
the
funny feeling
contracts.
about that, but I just wanted to hear it.
Yep, the contracts that we have to live with them as they are until they're renegotiated otherwise.
So how that's important to budget when people say they're just getting their 2% cost of living, they're getting their 2% plus their 3%. So make sure you understand that's why it's budget.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I understood.
So I'd like to also find out, you said you get a lot of sexual harassment cases, complaints. On average, I'm trying to justify in my mind why you need these people. I heard what Mr. Mulholland said. I'm trying to understand why the 2 full-time people don't have the time to do these things already.
Sure.
Like, I don't understand, why we need to have these two people doing this that will be there forever getting raises and benefits and whatever, because it's more than the 44, it's 44 plus. And have you looked in outsourcing parts of your department's obligations?
We do. We're paying law firms at $290 an hour.
I'm not talking about those
But that's
kinds.
outsourcing, but that's exactly what I'm talking
I'm
about.
talking about using a HR company to handle some of the stuff.
I was prepared for this question.
I'm sure you were.
So, tell me why I would do that. I got 5 questions for you back at you on that.
Okay.
Why I would do that, and then who's doing that in the municipal setting? How much would that cost at the end of the day?
I don't
And
know.
then-
I've asked this 4 times
Right.
of the town manager since the last time I was on council, and I never got any response.
Well, you're
So-
getting one now.
No, I'd like to see a comparison, like actually talk to an outsourcing company.
I'd like you to find one for me that would actually
I
do
have
this.
3 off the top of my
Good.
head.
So if you provide those to me, I'll be glad to talk to them, and I'll show you why that's not going to
Okay,
work.
sounds fantastic to me. So,
Before you continue, Counselor Paul, you just mentioned that I had stated that we have a lot of sexual harassment complaints. If I stated that, I didn't mean to. I don't think I said we have a lot of sexual harassment
complaints
complaints.
and
Yes.
stuff.
So just in terms of protecting the culture of the town of Londonderry, we do not have a
no,
lot
I
of
meant
sexual harassment
sexual
complaints.
harassment complaints and complaints.
Yes,
You said
and
you
complaints
get.
in general. And just to answer your question, if we get one sexual harassment complaint, the amount of time it takes to properly investigate that complaint is significant. I think it's hard to fully wrap your head around what it really means just to start that process, to sit down with the complainant, to get all of the information, the documentation they have, and then to start investigating, to start interviewing witnesses. The documentation that is required of that is so critical and so important and so time-consuming. Dealing with that employee who comes in on that day, if something like that comes to my office, that's a drop everything. When I talk about triage, everything needs to be dropped at that moment, and we need to have a conversation about what's happening. Is this employee safe in the workplace? Do we need to place them on paid administrative leave? Do we need to talk to their supervisor immediately? That's just the beginning of it. This can take months in order to get through a proper investigation. So
And
having
do we have
somebody-
one a year, approximately?
We wish.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. And that's the other part of the problem, because you weren't tracking, the town was not tracking those complaints. We have since then implemented a program called Guardian Tracking. So all of our complaints will be tracked through that system.
And again, I'm just trying to justify.
I know, and I'm trying to explain it to you.
Okay.
So when that system is up and running, hopefully by the end of this month, we'll actually be tracking those for the first time, and we'll have the total volume of it. I can tell you, in the short period of time I've been here, there have been quite a few, and they have been costly, because I've contracted out to do those, either with a law firm or a consulting firm to do those, and I'm paying a lot more than I want to be paying these folks an hour in which to do that. And I have to do them because the law requires,
I
if you
understand.
fail to investigate those, that's one of the biggest issues you might.
I understand the importance of HR. I'm not trying to diminish it
I'm
at
trying to
all.
explain it to you.
I know.
This is risk mitigation at this point. Like, if
Exactly.
we screw this up, this costs us a ton of money.
Significantly more.
And the good thing about these positions is there's not benefits attached to them because they're part-time.
Right.
At the moment.
Yeah, well, that's a decision you have to make in the future, but what I'm telling you is I'm used to doing this with part-time people. So that's what I'm proposing to be done. And I do see automation is going to change this environment as well as the other environments in here, but we are not there yet to be able to do that, because there's a lot of HR functions, and she's already working on that. I brought her a stack back from the conference I was at of companies that are doing that, like Oracle and Workday and those programs.
Oh, I used to work for Oracle.
What's
Go
that?
ahead. I used to work for Oracle.
So
Go
then
ahead.
you understand.
I do.
So a lot of that can be automated, that it is not automated right now, which will help some of that workflow. So I'm really, the cost of full-time employees, and you know this better than anybody, keeps growing geometrically. With health insurance costs, retirement costs. In California, 69 cents on the dollar was just for benefits, and the rest was salaries.
Yeah.
We have to work smarter, and that's what I'm proposing that we do
Well, that's
here.
why I'm trying to ask these questions, to
I know,
paint a
and I'm
picture.
answering them.
So roughly, Tara, how many employees, so what's our turnover? Like, how many employees on average, like you've been here for a while now.
Yeah.
On average, like, how much turnover is there? Is there like 4 or 5 employees a year, 10 to 20? What is the turnover?
So it varies year to year, and it depends if we're talking about full-time permanent employees. So when we talk about turnover employees.
Just all in general?
In general. So we could have 25 employees leave over the course of a year. That includes some of our full-time permanent employees. It also includes our seasonal staff. And that's something, again, when I talk about the burden on HR for processing all of these changes, our seasonal staff is significant. So our recreation department has done a phenomenal job over the last couple of years of bringing in new programs to town, which we've all seen. But with that comes a lot of additional staff. So what used to be 5 camp counselors for our summer recreation programs swelled to a dozen last year. We're running volleyball programs. Well, somebody needs to teach those. So we have a volleyball coach, we have an assistant volleyball coach, we have a tennis instructor, we have a dance instructor. These all become employees of the town of Londonderry, which means the Human Resources Department is onboarding them and offboarding them when they come and they go. Regardless of whether you're permanent and you're here for 20 years or you're here for 2 months, you still need to complete your W-4 and have an I-9 form done and be uploaded into our payroll system. So as these numbers increase, so does the work of the HR department when it comes to turnover. So again, doesn't matter if you're a full-time employee or a seasonal employee.
Well, that's why I was going here.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to paint a, see, everything you put up there sounds good, but to average person like myself, we understand real scenarios, and that's why I was going where I'm going with these questions. I want people to understand what the pros and cons are, and that you looked at every avenue to make the right decision.
Sure.
So that's why I'm kind of going the way I'm going in my
Absolutely.
my brain. That's just how it works.
I get it.
And again, I think that that was all the questions I had, I think. Let me just check one more time. So, when we hire these people, Mr. Mulholland, will they have some sort of legal background? Because I heard her mention a lot, I heard you, Tara, I heard her mention a lot, the legal, and will we be able to get people with a legal background willing to take that pay?
When you say a legal background, are you talking about a lawyer?
No, paralegal, a legal background, meaning they took classes and so that they can do some of this stuff that you guys were just talking about. I mean, you need to have some sort of savvy when it comes to negotiating that world.
Yes, that's the job descriptions have been drafted for that, so yes, that's the goal.
But do you think that will attract people with that background? Do you think they expect people with that background? Do you think they expect more?
I've hired people in that background.
Okay.
I'm
asking you as someone who's done it.
I
I've
know.
never done it.
In a more constrained labor market than what you have down here, you have more options here than
Okay.
up in the middle of the North Pole, where I
Okay.
came from.
Thank you.
And that only applies to the specialist. The HR assistant would not need to have that kind of background. It's more an administrative role.
Okay.
Dan has another question before you continue.
Yes.
Not a question as much as a statement about HR. None of you have reached this yet, but when you hit 65 years old and you have to go on Medicare, it's a nightmare, and they were awesome to navigate that. So as a
I
retiree, I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll pass that along. That certainly wasn't me, but I'll pass it along to our HR administrator. I appreciate that
Any other
very much.
questions, or can we let her? Oh,
Chair.
go ahead, yeah.
This is minuscule, because I'm on the budget committee, I'm going to ask you about numbers.
Okay.
On slide 2, you list the 2 part-time positions with their expected comp. On slide 9, you have a total of 102,973, but when I look at your budget on line 4120, I see 95,708 for next year. Can you help me understand the difference?
No, Justin.
FICA Medicare. FICA
She
Medicare.
deals with people.
FICA Medicare.
So it's wrapped up in there.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It was because they were part-time that I was asking about that. Okay.
Great. Okay, so the slide we were on was just trying to highlight some of what we are doing in HR when we can spend time on the strategic, sort of more high-level initiatives that we have. And the town manager kind of teed up one example recently was we became aware that we were not treating our election workers or classifying them as we should. We have 100 people that affects, so we got together and we were able to figure out what we need to do and how we need to do it. And again, that comes with a legal compliance issue and being able to save the town money by preventing a potential Department of Labor infraction, fines, and things like that. Labor negotiations are another big part of what I like to spend my time focusing on when I can. That's really a need that we have. Things like ADA or disability accommodations are something that, again, saves the town money when we can handle those properly, and we've had several of those over the last year. So those are just some examples of what can be achieved when we're focusing on those high-level important matters. And then the next slide talks about some of the achievements of our HR administrator as well, who does just a phenomenal job. Like I said, she is handling really complex, high-risk functions such as leave of absence management for 220 employees, benefits administration for 180 of those, plus our 65 retirees that we talked about a little bit. And it's really important to highlight the importance of the work that's done in that office in particular. The mismanagement of an FMLA claim, for example, could come with serious fines, serious legal complications, and really negative impacts to an employee. And none of us want any of that to happen. So having this person have the time to spend on all of those initiatives is really what we're looking to get to. Okay, the next slide that I have there really summarizes our core problem that we're facing here. So as we've talked about, we're a two-person department in a constant reactive mode. That's the best way that I can put it. We just don't have the time to be proactively looking to help save the town money, mitigate risk, and that's what we're looking to do here. All right, and then moving on to the next slide. This, I think, hopefully gives a clear picture of the problem. So you have the resources of what I consider to be a qualified strategic HR professional in the director role, but spending approximately, we talked about liking numbers, 30% of my time on really administrative clerical work. It's not the best use of my time. I can be providing higher level support for the staff and for the town, and I think that's really where I'm best serving you. So that's what we're looking to get to. And when the time of the professional staff like myself and the HR administrator is spent on these daily clerical tasks, the high level legal strategic work just isn't getting done. So we're forced to kind of prioritize the urgent paperwork getting done as opposed to the legal protection, which is where we should be focused. Okay, just about to the tail end here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefit versus the cost analysis. I know that's important to you budget folks. So I view this request as an investment as opposed to an expense. The return is the mitigation of legal risk. So the cost of one badly handled investigation, one discrimination lawsuit, or one wage and hour audit, which we've had here at the town, could be far greater than the cost of these two positions. And that's really how I justify this in my mind here. Okay, so to conclude, this is my final slide I have here. Again, I consider this a strategic investment to ensure legal compliance and reduce our financial risk. It really does provide us faster, more efficient service to all town departments, which is what we're here for, helping them to hire staff, manage their people, and handle all of the HR initiatives effectively. So that's the end of my prepared slides. Are there any other questions that I can answer?
So,
go ahead.
Sure. I've got a couple questions. So, first, how many full-time employees will the department is budgeted for the HR department?
So right now we have two.
Okay. And that's, so 2 full-time, 2 part-time, that's what's reflected in the budget before us?
Correct.
Okay. And then my second question was the employee programs lines. I couldn't find that in prior years' budgets. It's for $7,500. I'm just wondering, what does that
Remember how I said I don't like management services?
Yes. Okay. There we go. All right. That's all I've got.
All right. Anybody else have questions for Tara? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have IT. Mr. Hodge, where are you, fellow? Tom loves public speaking. He said, I really want to spend as much time. And I said, look, we were going over this today, and I said, look, the reason why you do it, because you're smart. I'm the one who has to run my mouth, so that's all I can do, right? So that we got you to do the smart things, and we're going to tag team this as we promised we would do.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so my name is Tom Hodge, Director of Information Technology. The budget proposal focuses on scaling technology to meet exponential growth in demand on our systems and staff. For over a decade, the town has relied on just 2 IT professionals to support every department, every user, every system. That model was sustainable once, but the scale, speed, and complexity of today's technology have grown geometrically. Next slide. So the budget I'm presenting today is driven by strategic priorities. All services residents rely on depend on digital infrastructure. Cybersecurity threats continue to rise. When technology fails, services fail. When systems are secure and responsive, residents experience government that works efficiently and transparently. Our goal is to treat information technology as a public utility.
Let's just talk, Tom, if you would, about a little bit about the cybersecurity challenges. I don't want to obviously give up too many trade secrets, but I think you would agree that municipalities should be doing what's called penetration testing.
Correct.
To see if their systems work, right?
Correct.
So a community that's staying ahead of that would be doing penetration testing, right? That would be important. And also would be important to do training for staff. What's the weakest point in our cyber protection system? It's the people, right?
Correct.
And social engineering, right? So it'd be important to do training for staff and cybersecurity to build those challenges in there. We've had some recent attacks here, have we not? In terms of our systems, we've had some phishing scams by people scraping things off of our website and going after applicants during a ZBA meeting just
Correct.
before the meeting.
Yep.
Try to get them to pay money. We've had that actually happen here. And we've also had breaches of the systems and the third parties we're using. We just had one of those recently in the fire department when we're dealing with HIP information.
Mhm.
So we're not immune to these attacks here. And our cyber posture needs to be much, much higher than what it presently is without getting into great details about that. Because I would suggest to you that we are at a certain degree of risk, and we are a pretty good target for that. Any governmental entity is a pretty good target for that. And we really need to up our game in that area. You read about it all the time, about cybersecurity breaches that occur with governmental entities being held ransom, those sorts of things. And municipal governments have to be way ahead of that game. We've had some specific examples right here in New Hampshire. It's really important that we up our cybersecurity profile. Sir?
When we're talking pen testing, are we talking external third party or self pen testing?
Yeah, so I'm suggesting third party. And it's not just trying to attack our system. It's literally having people that walk into the building, go up to a computer, I'm here to fix the photocopier, and nobody checks their ID and they go and do that. I did this where I was before, and it's amazing how many people fall for that, and these people have access to enormous amounts of information, and we don't do that. Kroll is one of those companies that's pretty good about doing that. There are several others. Systems Engineering is another one that does that.
I've been through that myself. I know. Yep.
Yes, yes.
Speaking to our security, and at my prior company, I could not even access our town website because I got a thing on our webpage that said, known for security attacks. So I couldn't even access it when I was at my office at my prior company. So
sadly, we don't even have the ability to know how many attacks we had. Where I was before, we had 14,000 attempts to penetrate our systems last year. 14,000. I can only imagine how many we have here. And how many actually got through, we don't even know sometimes. Sometimes they're scraping your information, you don't even know it. And you may not ever know it and how they utilize that. We really have to change how we operate and what we do.
What frequency do we plan on running these pen tests?
I wouldn't want to talk about that publicly.
Okay. No. 100% fine.
They're done on a consistent enough basis, and then certainly if we have an area that failed, we hit it again and again and again to make sure that people have got the message. And there are consequences for sloppiness and negligence when. Think about this, what we have personal identifying information, dates of birth, social security numbers, banking routing numbers we have in here. We have a lot of information on people that if someone that gets into the wrong hands, a lot can be done with that. And we're responsible for protecting that information. We have HIPAA information when you're dealing with the fire department and medical care to folks. We have, on the law enforcement side, we have considerable amounts of confidential information that needs to be secure. And there's a lot that's more that's in digital format than ever. And we're taking big leaps into the digital realm and going away from paper here. So it's gonna be even more important than ever, because a lot more of that information is gonna be available in a digital format for people to steal, compromise, or try to sabotage.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that real quick, please?
Do you want to finish, Sean?
Sorry, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I can go. So does Primex cover cybersecurity? Because I know, like, from my workplace, we have separate cybersecurity insurance in case of breaches and things like that. Does that fit into our policy? Is that something we need to look at?
We have that. We have that through them, and we're dealing with that right now because we had a breach.
Yeah.
So they pay for the first $50,000, then the third-party insurance company kicks in from Primex. We're going through that whole process right now because we had a breach here
Do
recently.
we have legislative notification requirements where we have to provide, similar to, I'm sure we've all got, your telephone company got hacked and all of a sudden you get a thing in the mail going, hey, this is this.
Federal
these are-
law, actually, when it comes to HIPAA.
Yeah.
So yes, we are under those obligations. And that was a problem because nobody was sure how to do that. And I had to direct them, this is what you do and this is how you do it, and you do it very quickly. So we're going through that whole protocol now. We got our insurance company involved right away. But the town of Peterborough obviously was hit really hard, and there have been others in our state school districts. I know right across the river from Vermont, a school district got hit really hard, as well as the town. They get twice and still hadn't learned their lesson. We don't want to be in that spot. Because that's thousands because the insurance company won't cover all of it, and they didn't in those other towns either. And it really behooves us to make sure that we enhance our capabilities here.
Patrick, you had a question?
Yeah, just a follow up on that. And so again, without details, but I'm curious as to maybe thumbs up, thumbs down, or head waggle or something because we're being recorded. In terms of ransomware and operational continuity, which is a little bit separate than systems being invaded and compromised, but to take the town's operations down for some amount of time, just curious if this is part of your planning or existing posture. And again, no details.
Yeah, it would be important for communities to do exercises and train their people and see how they react to that, what public information that you put out, and how you actually respond to that. I'm talking about right down to the user who's got a computer in front of him any day. It's really important that we have our people trained to that level.
Do we have a disaster recovery policy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's policies, and then there's policies that actually, there's a nice thing on the shelf, and then there's one that actually works.
I've worked for organizations that have them,
You
and
get
then
it.
they've not ran them in 5 years, and there's no way you could. I mean, for me, disaster recovery is run once a year, build it from scratch. You can get the system up in under 2 hours. That's functional, but different people have different.
And we operate our own servers here too.
Yeah.
Which is another certain degree of risk.
But aren't we moving to more off-prem?
We are.
Okay.
So
Go
what
ahead.
I'm gathering from all this information is that we are investing in training. And
We
all
already
this.
did that.
Yes.
That happened, that started in June.
I'm just trying to wrap it
Tom
all into
took the
budget.
initiative here and did the know before training. So all of our staff to do that, and some folks were not happy about that because when you fail, you get penalized. You have to go through retraining. So there's an incentive to do it right the first time. So Tom initiated that program, and I have to be there to shield him from the department. People get angry. What do you mean I got to do it all over again? Yeah, because you failed. So, and we do phishing tests, and there's actually a phishing button now. So if you get an email that's it doesn't sound right, it doesn't look right, you can hit that button and it puts it in quarantine, and they can stuff that you're familiar with probably anyplace else. Well, those things started in June with Tom's work of getting us into a better position that we are now in.
I've used No before, and it's a very cost-effective solution, but highly effective. So great pick.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Will we move on? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. All right, so IT is foundational infrastructure like roads or water. Next slide. These are types of activities that involve programs managed by the Information Technology Department. Municipal software is specialized but also used by multiple departments to coordinate information. All these areas are highly dependent on the town's infrastructure.
Show me the money, let's talk. So salaries. You see salaries up there, you don't realize this, but Tom looks like an employee, but he's not. He's actually a contractor. There are IRS rules that basically, I'll summarize it in a more simpler term, and that is that someone who looks like an employee, and they should be treated like an employee, otherwise you're violating federal law, which we prefer not to be doing. Especially if that employee only works in the building, doesn't work anyplace else, they're really not a contractor, they're an employee. So what you see is these, again, we had 2 people that were contracted, and now you see salaries to ensure that we're in compliance with the law. We'll be hiring employees. And that's why you see a benefits line that was not there before. And then I'll let you talk about management services and those sorts of things.
Management services line is going up because we've added quite a bit of new software and gone onto cloud services, and those have a cost. All right. Currently we have 2 IT staff members supporting over 350 users across all departments. It's a significant workload and introduces risks of outages and delays in addressing issues. That's not sustainable.
So for 10 years, we have, even though we have grown, the IT department has stayed the same.
Right.
And IT is growing geometrically compared to what it used to be in terms of its functions.
Absolutely. Very quickly.
And we're not proposing any additional staff people this year.
No.
Okay.
The largest portion of our IT budget is 58%. Goes to management services. This is the software that keeps the town running. Most software now runs on a subscription model, and the cost of subscriptions go up each year. Some by a very lot.
I made the exception on management services with IT.
Thank you.
Elephant on for both PD and this side.
I was actually going to say, Justin, if you wanted to, would it make more sense to actually separate it out? Subscriptions for this management.
I don't think it would at this point.
Okay, just wanted to make it more clear for people.
So there's some new things in there. I want to highlight the new things. I think that's really what you're really interested in. OpenGov permitting. That's the big increase in that, and that's for our building permits. The council approved changes to the fees that we charge for building permits to pay for that increase in the budget. And that's, it'll take a couple of years to build that out, and they'll be working on that. I think December you're starting on that?
Yep, the permitting starts December 1.
Kirsten's going to be, she is the project leader, and then she'll be working with folks in the planning department and the building department to implement all that, and that'll be funded through those increases in fees and not taxpayer dollars. The other big is OpenGov asset management. That will be funded predominantly by a $180,000 grant that we apply for in May, and if you apply for it, you get it. That's how that works. I've done this several different times.
That's just for the implementation, that's not the yearly cost.
Right. It's not the annual fees that go along with that, but it'll also cover the laptops and those sorts of things. This is where our units should be out on the road, should be out there putting that information in our DPW crews. Right now, we have no data. I can't tell you how many hours it takes to clean ditch lines in this town, or how many hours it takes to fill potholes. I don't have data to produce to you, and we don't track our assets. And Councilor Bouchard asked about this. What about this building? What are our plans to replace it? What is the life cycle cost of these facilities? We don't have any of that information. Modern governments have that. The state has been pushing that for years. It just hasn't happened here yet. But most other communities have an asset management system to track the millions of dollars in infrastructure that you have. And that's why they provide the grant that they do to get communities to do just that. Because people don't even know what they have, where their water lines are, and those sorts of things. We're a younger community in terms of that sort of infrastructure. But anyway, those are the big pieces in there. Know Before we talked about, that's a new cost. Again, initiative by Tom to get the training that's required in there. And Guardian tracking down at the bottom down there, I told you about that, to track complaints and employee performance. We have no system to do that right now. And also the things that employees are doing well, there's no way to track that either and highlight that. So that's an important piece. We always look at the problem side, but what about the positive side? And that does that. And he's listed a whole bunch of others in there.
I have a question about some of these licensing fees. I know sometimes if you buy more licenses, you can get a better discount for things. Would it make sense to maybe go in with, let's say the school district, for example, and buy more Microsoft 365 licenses, and then the town gets savings that way? I know they're two separate budgets, but property taxes are what they are. So you know what I mean? Could there be some cost savings there if we worked with like the school district or something?
We do utilize like some of our security we get from the state, and we utilize their numbers as a global. We utilize that wherever we can.
Okay.
365 is not one, unfortunately, that we can do right now. But I know from the meetings that I've been into with the state that we are looking into stuff like that.
Okay, good.
Okay, so as shown here, the budget looks different from most departments. The largest portion isn't salaries, it's services. Management software, cybersecurity systems, and digital platforms make up over half of our costs. This reflects how modern IT operates. Infrastructure is increasingly cloud-based and service-driven. Looking forward, cybersecurity remains our top priority. We're taking proactive steps into expanding penetration testing, enhancing employee training, and implement full system audits to identify close vulnerabilities, as we talked before.
Questions about IT budget?
Any question? Right.
Well, I understand the reason we're hiring this team to be full-time employees. Why is it costing us, from what I see right here, $62,000, and what I don't see right here is potentially 2 family plans for another 70 grand?
They don't, family plans are under health insurance, they're not under.
That's what I'm saying. So I can't see it on this. It's probably blended in with the health insurance budget. So we're
Correct.
talking about another $130,000 to hire these 2 employees. I don't understand.
Health insurance is not 130,000 more.
2 family plans is 35 each. That's 70.
Right.
And retirement, Medicare, FICA, workers' comp. This is another $62,000. So by bringing these 2 people on, we're increasing the budget $130,000.
We definitely are.
If I'm working with a contractor, I'm paying them $100. I like them, I'm bringing them on. I'm not paying them $100 when I hire them.
But how are you going to do that, though, in this environment, though?
So we're bringing them on dollar for dollar, essentially, what we were paying them before. That doesn't make sense to me.
Can you just ask the question, what doesn't make, what part of it?
When I'm hiring a contractor, the benefits, the taxes, that's all on there. That burden's theirs.
Right.
If I'm hiring them full-time, I'm not gonna be paying them the same amount on a hourly wage as I was paying them as a contractor. What I'm seeing here is essentially we are paying them dollar for dollar the same and picking up all that burden.
Yes, we have to pay the full cost of the wage-driven cost and the salary to be able to do that, yes. For 2 people. How else are you gonna do that, though? Is what
I
I'm
think to
getting at.
Ryan's point, and so I've hired people in this situation, been on contractors, converted into full-time, and I've had that conversation that when you convert to full-time, it's not apples to apples.
Right.
And if we do more, it is viewed as a raise, even if the dollar amount doesn't salary-wise line up for that, because the cost and expense. And I've used that discussion because some people prefer to remain contractors for that exact reason, because they don't care about the benefits or anything else like that. So I think that more or less sums up your question.
Right.
Yeah, so he's wondering, like, this looks like a significant raise from a budgetary-only standpoint, and so he's just asking for a little more detail.
Certainly, if you add all the benefits in, what people get in the private sector isn't gonna be the same, right? The health insurance tends to be better. They retirement, most people don't have a pension plan. These people participate in an HRS pension plan, so yes. It costs more to have public employees than it does to contract. That's what you're getting at. No
I think
question.
the other point here that Mulholland had made was that we were potentially maybe breaking the law by
Well, we are,
having.
but not potential, we're breaking the law. It's as simple
I was
as
trying to be nice about it.
I know, but the reality of it is we
So we're
are.
trying to right the situation by not breaking the law anymore.
We have been for 10 years.
That's what he's asking for.
So you're working with a contractor.
I think the other end of that is, we could have a worse situation on our hands, as we've been doing this for 10 years, if you get my grift.
The numbers don't make sense.
I understand, but we could have a worse situation on our hands.
That doesn't explain
Why a significant jump?
why we're paying 50% more to bring these two people on.
Because we have to pay the benefits to come up in legal standing.
That's what I'm trying to understand is,
But we don't have to pay the same salary. We do have to pay the benefits, yes, that's true. We
Well,
don't
I'm
have
also
to.
trying to get at that we could have a legal situation on our hands.
Well, so if we want to go into the legal
wasn't
situation.
trying to-
No, I don't like to dive into these details, but I'll dive into the details. I'm guessing, because I've had this situation before in the past, that you used to have your own contracting company. And I've talked to Kim about your particular situation when he was acting town manager, and we were talking about rectifying this situation, so that's why I know a little more details. You were under your own contracting company in a way, so you weren't, like, we were employing your company per se as a service. So it wasn't like you were a one-for-one employee, because that's how the federal government, when they look at these things, don't look at you as an employee, and we're doing that situation. So if that was the situation in the past, we are free and clear from a legal standpoint.
Okay.
Well, we actually aren't, because his only employment is here.
No, now,
No,
because
no,
I
no,
don't think he
before.
has that company. Before, so like for the past 10
That was
years.
the other
Doesn't
Tom.
matter.
That was
The other Tom, Tom Roy.
There's two Toms. Thank you. Okay.
Still not doing the right thing.
That makes it a different situation.
I think Mulholland's trying to also eliminate exposure here.
With two Toms in IT.
Yes.
Wow.
Dan has a question.
So, I'm trying to understand, at the police department, we have $419,260 for IT as well.
Mhm.
Can you explain to me the difference, and do they work together, or?
They're separate. They have the other Tom. Right, so Tom is an employee, that Tom Roy is an employee. He was the company that these folks worked with. He used to be here. He
Okay.
became an employee over there.
So that's the situation, is when he was there, and we shouldn't dive way down this because I'm sure people don't care, but.
Well, it's important they already understand.
When he was an employee for the other Tom, that covers that situation as far as we weren't doing anything wrong because we
We
were
were.
employing that company.
We were, because they were only working here, so they didn't have other work. This was their job. So basically, they come here, their office is here, they don't go anyplace else. This is where they work all week long. So we've been violating that this whole time.
Well, I guess I've employed long-term contracting companies for over a year, and then they go work somewhere else eventually, but they work exclusively for me for over a year. And according to our lawyers in HR, we were not in violation of any kind of law, so I'm trying to, and maybe it's different in the public sector a little bit, but
It's actually not, but anyway.
Can I get back to my question?
You can.
Okay. 419,000. Why isn't it all under one?
It will be. In January, once you approve the administrative code change that I am proposing be made.
So we'll have one IT department, not IT
It will
here
be
and
called
IT
the
there?
Cyber Services Department, but yes.
Okay, all right, that's what I'm looking at. So we're not gonna have one here, one there.
Yep.
One for the town, thank you.
But that's a decision the council has to make. I don't get to make that unilateral. I'm proposing that. And then I can best utilize those resources across the entire town and not just one department have better services than
That'll
perhaps
be a
the others.
discussion for January.
Deb has a question.
I just want to go back to what Kate said about finding synergy with the schools and for buying power, not necessarily sharing their IT with our IT, but purchasing powers and stuff. I know it's probably not here, and probably in January, or when we have another joint meeting, that maybe we, the council and the school board could discuss figuring out ways to be better at cybersecurity. and
Tom
all
had
that.
mentioned that you guys try to work together whenever they can.
He said the state,
No,
not the
no, no.
school.
He said they do try to work together whenever they can. if
They've
they
been
can.
doing that, actually. We, as you probably heard, a few months ago, we had the issue with the alarm system that went off there. That required IT in 3 different functions, the police IT person, that other Tom, this Tom, and whoever the person is that works, so with the school district, the persons, they had to work collectively together to make sure those systems worked efficiently.
Right. So they're already doing this, Deb. They've
Right,
been
but
doing
I'm
this a long
talking about
time.
buying power.
He
not
already
just-
does that. He
I
already
thought he
said
said
that.
he only worked with
No.
the state for buying.
So when it comes to like Microsoft Office, we buy the private version. I don't know why. Other places have the government version.
Well, that would make sense, right?
Anyway, so when you do that, you get a certain price. If you get above a certain number, and you have to be much larger than what the two of us together would be to get that lower
For
price.
the seats.
It's a fixed price is what it is. And then again, you have to be much larger to go to the next tier to be able to get the next lower price. And we're not going to be that big.
Fundamentally, too, there's something with not mixing town and school budgets where we can't necessarily. You'd have to answer this for me, Justin. Is there something where we've got to keep them separate to some degree?
So, yes, we're able to kind of get around that through payments and things like that, like we do with the gas. I think what Deb is more focusing on here is, if we're looking to buy 100 laptops and the school's looking to buy 100 laptops, can we get the price of 200 rather than each of us?
Yeah.
If-
things
yeah,
like
I'm
that.
assuming that's what you're-
That and seats on a program like.
Right.
But we
with,
can't enter
with the
into-
seats on the program, I don't know exactly about the pricing thing. My more concern is ours is under NH.gov. I don't think Microsoft would be willing to offer a bargain discount when they're going to have a separate one as well, because that's 2 separate entities,
Yeah,
and you need to have them 2 separate. That way,
The
I
separate
was just trying
EIN
to find
numbers.
some synergy. I'm sorry.
But I imagine joint contracts get sticky. Too.
exactly.
That-
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions for IT? Thank you, sir.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Deb, to your point too, is recently we switched over our copiers, and the company was looking to charge us to take the copier back, and I found out the school had the same version. So we had them pay essentially what it would have cost us to
Oh, that was
hold on
smart.
to it. Cheaper for them. They now have another copier.
But that
We
was
don't have to
smart.
pay more.
Yeah,
So
that
we
was-
do where we can, we try to work together.
That's good.
That's brilliant.
But we don't know, we don't see these things as counselors or residents. We don't know what's going on. And it's good to hear every now and then that things like that happen. Sorry, I'm taking up time.
You're good. That was one that I thought it was ridiculous. They were going to charge us more to have them take it away than us keep it.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's wild.
Welcome.
Good
You're up.
evening.
You're up.
Thank you. So for the record, Kelly Karen, I'm your deputy town manager and the director of planning and economic development. To my right is Nick Codner, your chief building inspector, and we are going to give you an overview of the planning and economic development department, which yes, includes the building division.
So that's something that also you will see in January. I'm combining both of those departments into one, which is more typical of what you see in most other communities to create the efficiencies and make sure the communication flows between those 2 functions effectively. So that's why Kelly is presenting that budget, because she's ultimately going to be responsible for all of that.
Thank you. So before we get into the future slides here, just a brief overview of what I'd like to discuss. So the general department functions, I'll go through a couple of slides that illustrate some of the data points that we're able to provide you. You've heard a lot about OpenGov software, and having that in place will really allow us in the future to demonstrate future revenue projections with respect to building and land use permitting, things of that nature. And then I'll close with going over what we've actually done this past year. But again, just a brief overview. So we have 9 total staff within planning and building. That's 7 full-time and 2 part-time. It consists of myself, your chief building inspector, our GIS manager and comprehensive planner, town planner, land use assistant, assistant building inspector, permit technician, code enforcement officer, and department assistant. So with respect to what we actually do, so everyone's pretty familiar with development in town. You hear a lot about it. But really what that entails is us reviewing all of the site plan, subdivision, and building permit applications, which on average with respect to planning applications in particular is about 85 applications annually. So that's planning board and zoning board applications. And then the inspections are about 2,300 permits per year for building permits and inspections. The building department is also responsible for overseeing code enforcement and responding to citizen complaints. So some other items that we take care of in planning are your GIS management. So that's the public-facing mapping tool that you see on the homepage of the website. So not only is it a mapping tool for the public to utilize to look up your property, things like that, but it also is used internally to support not just the planning department, but all of the municipal departments, particularly emergency services, or assisting DPW with things like your plow routes, mapping that out so they have that information. We also oversee comprehensive master planning and program development. So that encompasses our comprehensive master plan, which is legally required. That's something that we're in the middle of updating right now. And then our oversight of a capital improvement plan. Additionally, we support a total of 11 boards and committees. So that again includes Planning Board, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Conservation Commission, Heritage, Capital Improvements Committee, and our Master Plan Steering Committee. And then we also coordinate with several other committees. So this really emphasizes that we are a very public-facing department. I think I've been, myself or my staff have been before every single board and committee in this town. Maybe with the exception of budget, so I'm happy to be before you guys tonight. So this slide demonstrates the building permit fees over the last 5 years. That's calendar years. So on average, we're looking at kind of a fluctuation in revenue. But the highlight to point out is that since the beginning of this year, calendar year 2025, through October, we're totaling about just over 1 million collected through building permit fees. So that's significant revenue for the town. And then again, the building permits themselves, we're averaging about 2,300 permits a year. So again, just demonstrating the sheer volume that these departments are responsible for reviewing and following through on.
Kelly, do you have 2025?
I do not.
Okay.
So that's another example of where having the proper software programs to be able to easily pull accurate and up-to-date information is critical. And then again, same with the building inspections, averaging about 4,400 annually. That's again based on the last 5 calendar years.
And that's only 2 inspectors.
Correct. So that's 2 full-time inspectors and then 1 full-time permit technician and then a part-time department assistant, managing kind of that workload of all those inspections and building permits.
Right.
And that's not touching on the code enforcement side of things, of which we do have a code enforcement officer. Again, that's a part-time 28-hour-a-week position. And then our inspectors assist with that as well as they can.
But what I'm saying is that on the number of inspections, we only have 2 people that physically go out and inspect, make all these inspections.
Correct. So to close out, I'll cover a couple of significant data points. So with respect to development review and permitting, again, averaging about $800,000 annually over the last 5 years.
and that's, again, revenue to help offset general fund costs. Beyond that operational revenue, you heard the town manager highlight on Saturday that as of April 1 of this year, new development has added more than 70 million in newly assessed value to the Londonderry tax base. All of that development goes through this office. So that's a very significant contribution that we undertook over the last few years to review those projects, help the land use boards review them, and provide advisory recommendations in that regard. Some of our other accomplishments would be, as you heard, most recently, the comprehensive building permit and land use fee update. We're also in the midst.
Kirsten, can you slide down the
Sorry.
presentation? Somehow it got off.
What?
Somehow the presentation got off on the, we're not on that slide.
She was at the end.
I just put it back to the beginning, so there
Gotcha.
Thank you. So we're also in the middle of rewriting our planned unit development ordinance, and that is hopefully on track to be wrapped up this fiscal year. Some other items that we've completed are the removal of our 28 overlay district, so that's a significant zoning review. We've implemented the commercial industrial tax exemption program, which the council formally readopted in March of this year. We've also established the Pettingill Road Tax Increment Finance District. And again, like I mentioned, we are currently updating our comprehensive master plan, which is on track to be completed in February of 2026. So looking ahead, just to emphasize again, we're preparing to implement the OpenGov permitting software fully. Like I said, this will really assist us with providing not only us, but you, up-to-date and accurate information with respect to the volume of permitting and reviews that we're doing, and then the revenue that's associated with that. We're also looking to implement lean processes and improvements to the permitting functions. Obviously, keep up to date with staff training and cross-department coordination to continue to maintain the high quality of customer service that you all expect. And that's all I have, unless you have anything to add.
Any questions for Kelly? Dan? Actually, it's for Nick. All right, he came here. So Nick, you've run that building department for years. Is there anything that we should be looking at to help out in that department? I mean, it hasn't grown much, and you know, I just see that there's a lot of calls for permits. I see you guys going out there and doing a lot of inspections. I also see that that building department is very accommodating to everybody. If you call and you say, I need an inspection on this day, you guys accommodate that, and I think that's great. But I see a lot of building going on. Anything that you can see that would try to help your department out?
Well, the department is going to have to grow. We have just to keep up with the town and our workload. I am so busy that I never got around to being able to fill out the paperwork to ask for another position. So, and I've had, Kelly sent me an email weeks ago, and I said, I gotta get that done. I just running, never had a chance to. But eventually, we need to put on another inspector. And we gotta look to the future for who's gonna be our next senior building inspector too.
Because you do more than just inspections. You review plans
Yeah,
as well.
review the plans, do the inspections, listen to neighbors complaining about other neighbors, answering legal questions, going out and doing inspections, inspecting apartments with mold, holes in the floors, holes in the walls, leaks in the plumbing. We get every complaint you can think of, they come to us. The police department send people to us. And we say, that's not us, send them back to the police.
And you also have the inspections for restaurants and stuff.
No, we don't do, we're not a self-inspecting town, the state does that.
The state does it.
Yeah, we do the initial fit-up.
Okay.
When a restaurant will first go in, Yeah.
But you're also the health officer.
The
So I
health
think
officer
to
also,
emphasize your point, Counselor Bouchard, so just as one example, Nick is our chief building inspector, our health officer, and our zoning administrator.
So I
Wears a
sit
lot
on-
of hats.
Sit on the ZBA meetings too, yeah.
Yep, I've seen you there at the ZBAs.
I think a good point that he makes is that you don't go out and do the health inspections on restaurants like Derry does.
No.
Derry has someone who does that. We do not.
Right. The town could take it on, but I don't see why we would want to take it on.
Well, we would need a lot more staff to do that.
That's right. That's right.
Do you know, Nick, how often the state comes in to inspect these restaurants?
I believe they do them annually, or
Do 'em
if
annually.
there's complaints.
Okay.
They actually don't anymore. There was 3 health inspectors. I think they were down to 1. They don't come right anymore.
So we don't have anybody inspecting them, pretty much.
So there's a feeling by the general public that these food establishments that you're eating in are inspected on a regular basis. They are not.
That's comforting.
Yeah, so under for the revenues for building permits, license and permits, you've projected $1 million. Could you walk us through how you came up with that projection? Because you're projecting 2 years out. So how? Right, yeah, 2 years out. So how? Did you formulate that, or is that
So I took a look at the historical average of what we've received, as well as the knowledge that the building permit costs are going to be going up. So that's why I put it at that. If you look, it's decreased from what we have this year, because when we're doing the tax rate stuff, I know what we're at so far.
Okay.
So I feel comfortable putting it at that number, where if I miss, it'll be smaller than where we are. But based on the past 3 to 4 years, it needed to be increased, where we've hit the million mark, I believe, 3 of the 4 years.
All right, thank you.
Also, Joe, just so you know, what we approved in the increase in the permits for the building department, it used to be that if I went in and I got a building permit, and Nick would say, okay, how much is this going to cost you? And I'd say it costs X, all right? And that's what the permit was based on. Now it's going to be based on square footage. So everybody, prices are probably going to go up a little bit, but everybody will be treated fairly.
Okay.
So, okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I know this disappoints you, but that's day 3 of budgeting. We will pick this back up again on the 10th. I know the council has some other items that had to address here this evening, but
Well, thank everyone for their presentations. We appreciate it. Up next, we have approval of consent items.
Motion to approve consent items.
I have a motion from Sean.
Second.
Second from Ted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Sure. Oh, yeah, that's right, we do want to wait. Before we let you go, sir,
I was planning on sticking around for quite a few more years.
yes.
Well played.
We as a council wanted to discuss the UFB.
Yeah, we took a look at what's, and we've listened to, several people in public comment, people out in the community have been talking about their tax burdens and screaming for the council to do something. And, in our conversations, we thought that, we need to do something. And we do understand it's against the town manager's recommendation. We do understand the maturing as a community and getting away from that kind of thing. We just think this is one of those years where people need that little extra bit of help, and we're very interested in doing something to try to help them.
Well, I'll say this is news to me, because this is the first I hear of it. So what are we talking about here with the...
So what we're talking about is, I think, that we as the council need to do something to affect the tax rate. And to do that, we could take some money from the UFB fund.
How much money are you thinking of taking?
And councils historically have done that before.
I know, but how much are you thinking of doing?
I was considering $1 million.
So my question would be to Justin, if we take $1 million out of UFB, how does that impact the tax rate on a house of, because we had a house before of what, 600 and?
Yeah, I have a presentation to talk about this, if you'd
Okay.
like me to, and explain it.
All right, I will hold off. Go ahead. Because I'm new at this.
All right. So the unassigned fund balance, there's recommendations from GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, as well as the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration. And they recommend that you keep that within 5 to 17% of regular general fund operating revenues, or 8 to 17% of regular general fund operating expenditures. The GFOA just looks at it in a different way, at least 2 months of regular operating revenues or expenditures. That is the standard to follow to make sure that you don't run out of reserves. As you know, we have some school districts that are in that spot right now. So our present UFB balance is $12,167,168, right? The 5%, which is the bottom of that range of your reserves, $6.2 million. At 8%, it's $10 million. And of course, we're at 10%, just below 10% at $12,531,000. And then at the top of that range is $21,303,000. So we're nowhere near the top, as you can see. A maximum available to use at 5% minimum is $5.9 million. If you look at this next slide, what we're proposing in the FY27 budget, $2.5 million for the school district office building, $900,000 for both of the water funds that we had talked about earlier, $500,000 for the transportation CRF, $200,000 for expendable maintenance trust fund, $300,000 for the fire truck CRF, $650 for equipment, that's the defibrillators that need to be replaced, $175 for IT, which we just talked about, the software program, and then $75,000 for Pillsbury Cemetery, $25 for rec. That's $5.3 million that you would be taking out of that. That's going to put you down basically at the minimum of that range as our economy is getting a little bit darker. So the reason why it was indicated that the town manager is not going to recommend that, I think your finance director would say the same thing, is that the best way to use unassigned fund balance is to use that cash going forward. I know it's not uncommon for elected officials to do this, to use it now, and what that does is that artificially hedges your tax rate. Artificially hedges your tax rate. It creates a hole that now has to be addressed in the next year. And you've seen some fluctuations on that $634,000 house. We look at that here, $73,500 equates to 1 cent on the tax rate based on the new revaluation. You've been using $200,000 for the last 3 years with the plan to get off of this hedging of the tax rate. And that would equate to basically 0.27 cents. That would be $17 on that same house we talked about earlier at $634,700 divided that amount. That would save that person $17. They could not even buy a pizza with that. If you used $500,000, that would save them $43 on that house. You could buy 2 pizzas, maybe.
And so with what we're talking, though, this would save the average person
$86.
Yep. So near $100 a tax bill, which I think for some people would be significant.
But you will drain your reserves down to a point where your rainy day fund and your cash flow, that's the other big thing. We have to pay the school district. Actually, we'd have to pay them immediately if they told us to pay them all the money that was owed to them. Fortunately, they don't do that. They allow us to do that on a schedule because we get 2 times a year we bring in major revenue. You have to be able to handle that cash flow in between. You got to pay your employees. You got to pay the county every December. It's $4 million. I think that's owed to them. If you're not able to do that, you have to do it's called tax anticipation notes. You have to borrow money and pay interest in between those times until your revenues come in. Not a good practice to be doing that. I would highly suggest that you don't use $1 million to offset the tax rate. You are going to create a hole, and we are going into very uncertain financial times. That would be a major mistake. $200,000, I'd be less concerned about that, but it really doesn't have much of an impact because that's what you have been doing. But $1 million would be I would suggest, I don't normally use the stronger words as I'm using right now. It would be financially irresponsible for you to do so. And obviously, it's your decision to make. It's my job to recommend things to you, advise you, and hopefully you don't make mistakes that others have to live with in the future. It's better to use that cash instead of having to borrow money in the future. That saves taxpayers a lot more money over time. That requires a long-term strategy, a long-term look.
Could you go to the previous slide of the unassigned fund balance usage? So with some of this, and I understand the things like we've done with the fire trucks before, and I've talked to Justin last year. Justin thankfully went over every single warrant article with the use of unassigned fund balance with me, and all those made sense. But I just want to make sure it's something where it's capital, we're saving money by not taking out a loan in the future. So some of these I'm not quite sure of. And if we took these off of warrant articles and just put them, instead of unassigned fund balance, put the value, then we let the voters choose what they want to spend or not spend money on with their UFB, which I view that's their funds, and give them back their funds.
So we're going to raise taxes next year to do this.
No, we're going to let the voters decide if they want to use or not use each of these items, and that will offset. Then we're not taking out more. We're not going below that 5%, but we're still getting what Ron.
So which ones are you looking at then? I want to know. Do you want to eliminate the school district?
No. None of this is eliminate.
You want to just let them vote on it and not taking out at UFB?
I'm not suggesting anything with the school district. I'm not suggesting the water funds and the transportation funds. I'm suggesting some of the other ones, because in the end of the day, we have 600,000 left over, according to those figures, and that's if we go to the recommended amount. We have 600,000, so we'd have 400,000 to make up. If you look below at any of those, we could take, instead of us paying it out of the UFB, we could, as we have on other warrant articles, just put the money and the taxpayers decide if they want their taxes to go up that amount to pay for that, if that is valuable for them or not. And so some of these other things we haven't discussed previously at all in the past. We haven't discussed the DFIB. We haven't discussed the cemetery. Recreation is what we've historically done over the years, but does the town want to pay for recreation? This is giving the voters more of a choice and giving them money back.
So how does that affect the fire trucks, Justin? If we decided, you know what, we're going to take 300 and 650 out of there and out of the fire department, and the voters say no.
The truck I'm guessing is offsetting a loan, and so that one makes sense. We should not touch that at all.
Okay, so now we're leaving the district office, we're leaving the truck in there?
No, we're not leaving the district office.
So what you're saying is leave that there.
Leave those.
You're saying leave, don't touch the district office, don't touch the water fund, don't touch the transportation, don't touch the fire truck.
Only things that aren't going to cost us more if we don't do. Those things make sense to do to offset the loans, as Justin has been saying.
So the fire equipment defibs, I just want to explain that one a little further.
Yes.
So we were informed that the fire department's defibrillators need to be replaced. It's about a $550,000 expenditure. We also were informed that this company has historically offered a 0% interest loan over 5 years. We also know that their self-breathing container apparatuses are going to need to be replaced in about 5 years. That's another significant increase. So the reason I'm recommending we put this amount into the capital reserve rather than do a warrant article just for the defibrillators themselves is the money that we're putting in there will be earning interest on, and my hope is as we continue to build up the capital.
We have a bit of rain hitting the building.
Sorry. As we continue to build up the capital to pay for the SCBAs is what they're called.
The reason why this
interest
is the rainy day
will,
fund that we're depleting.
The interest from this money that we're not being charged on the loan, again, assuming that they will honor that 0%, will hopefully offset the amount that we need to raise in 5 years to replace the SCBAs.
But that's a 5-year out thing, though. That's not generating more in interest per that.
It will be. So the 650 will be going into the capital reserve. We'll be paying over 5 years. The loan payment was 0 interest, so we're not paying interest on it. And the money that's not going to pay them up front is earning interest on itself. So hopefully come with inflation and everything else, my hope is that what we're preparing for the SCBAs, the interest we're earning on that money, the inflation's covering some of that.
Yeah, is it earning interest in any different way than it earns interest in the UFB, though?
So in this case, it earns interest strictly for the use of fire department
Okay,
equipment.
so it's just allocating it towards that.
Correct.
And that's what I'm suggesting is, if we're looking for something, we look for something where the voters make a choice on, and they could make a choice to fund that or not fund that, but at least we're giving an effort. I watched the school do it, and, it's hard to have people come up here and tell us, they're struggling. It's hard to read that out there on Facebook and read that out there and have people come up to you and talk to you in the community, and just to go, well, shucks, we got to sit above this percentage. That's where it's challenging.
Yeah, I'm just hearing from people out there that we have to do something to try to offset a little bit of the increase. I understand what you're saying 100%. I understand the future goal. I just think right now it's a tough time for people.
Yeah.
And I
Especially
think
with the reevaluation that took place.
And I think we as a council have an opportunity to do something to impact it. I mean, $100 is $100.
Yep.
I mean, we keep saying it's this and this, but it's $100.
Yep.
Well,
I mean,
it's not. You're talking $86, not $100.
No, it's not.
Okay.
All right. And
Still
furthermore,
$86 better.
okay, when you refer as, the council decided this, I was never part of this. I don't know.
The council's talking about it right now.
Okay. I know the council's talking about it, but I feel like, and a heads up would have been nice about this. I look at it and I go, business-wise, all right, somebody who owns a business who's been very successful at it, I think doing away with this is really irresponsible. We have a town manager that we pay good money, all right, who's a professional. We have a finance director who, when I look at him, all right, and what he's done, he's doing this like it's his own money because he's very careful about it. The stuff that he did for the PPE for the firefighters was phenomenal. How he came up and with and thinking out of the let me finish. He's thinking out of the box, and he's telling you this is not a good thing. So we have two professionals that we're paying a lot of money to, and they're saying this is not a good thing for the town to go down the road. We have counselors in the past who have sat up here, who have developed this to get the town in a better position, and now we're going to put ourselves at risk down the road. I don't agree with it. I look at it and I go, that's why businesses fail. We are running a town, and we should be running it like a business.
And the council did this in 2021, and we didn't collapse. And yes, we have professionals. We also have professionals up here who manage budgets, manage projects, work on large things, and also know how finances work as well. I understand the trade-offs. I'm not disagreeing with them. I'm just trying to help out the people in this community.
So let me say this, Sean, okay? I've lived in this town a long time, and when people have played games like this with the UFB, what we've seen is the tax rate goes down, okay? A little bit, not much, okay? And then we get spikes. And that hurts when a business wants to come to town and they say, don't you have a stable tax rate? No, because we just like to try to give a little tax break because it might be an election year, all right? So let's give a tax break. I haven't heard anybody saying that they wouldn't want to pay the extra, I look at it and what the numbers you're playing with, all right? To me, if I was just looking at saving $1, it's like $900 to me, all right, that I'd be saving. And I don't want to. I would rather, help the community and continue my stable tax rate.
So Dan, I just want
which is why I want to give them a choice.
I just want to clear something here. This wasn't sprung on anybody. This was actually told today that we should discuss this tonight because the tax rate needs to be set, and it could be set this week, and we need to discuss it beforehand. So it wasn't sprung on anybody.
Nice, Ron.
Okay. But that's why the discussion's happening right now because go ahead, Deb.
Well, two things. I was out here for a minute, so I missed the
Yeah.
beginning. So is the sole purpose of this conversation, somebody's coming in the middle, purpose of this is to try to lower the whole amount we owe in what
Yeah.
we're asking for? So that is I know that when I sat on this council, twice, I tried to use the UFB to lower the tax rate. I'm sorry, my mouth is stepping on my tongue. And then I was told no, and that it was foolish to do, and we can't go under these rates. And then the person who was the chair turned around and said to the town manager at the time, you need to find X amount and take it out of the budget. You need to go in there and figure out how to get, I don't know, 2%, 3% out of there to lower it down to you're getting a rate. The two things on here that I would say shouldn't be on here are the cemetery and the recreation. You're right, they should be something people should vote on. I agree with you on that. The other things I think really need to be there because in the long run, they're gonna help the town. Those two things, I mean, yes, people are dying to get into the cemetery, and yeah, everybody wants to play
Still not
pickleball,
joke.
but that should be a choice. That's a lifestyle choice, and so that, to me, shouldn't even be in the UFB. It should be straight out, like you said.
Okay.
But I think if we want to cut the taxes, we should tell the manager, we want you to find X amount of money and pull it out of the budget somehow. Something that maybe can wait for next year.
The only problem,
That's my 2 cents.
the only problem with that is a lot of that stuff is spending that was approved by the voters. Maybe we pull it out of the increase, but like some of the past stuff, like, you know, when we added, you know, a new part-time librarian or something like that, the voters chose to do those kinds of things. So we'd be going against that. This is on new spending, so that's why I just thought, let's give the
But
voters a
there's new
choice. I'm not saying
spending-
it's not
there's new
needed.
spending in the budget too.
Yeah.
And so maybe
So it can
there
come out
are
of that
things
too.
that can be, you know, maybe they
let's
don't
ask-
need this. That's what I'm saying. That's what
Is
I'm
there
suggesting.
an opportunity, sir, to come back to the council with a lower budget that could help us lower the tax rate?
Of course. I mean,
Before the tax rate's set.
No.
So that's the problem.
So remember, the voters already approved this tax rate increase. They approved those things that are in the warrant. Now you're going to artificially hedge it. So now you're going to put $1 million in here. What are you going to do next year? You're going to have to make up for that somehow. The tax rate has just been lowered by $1 million. So now, how are you going to fix that next year? You're going to spend another $1 million out of unassigned fund balance that you're not going to probably have? So the things that are in the budget that cause this tax rate, the voters actually, like you said, they actually approve those things. So that's why you get and now we're going to say, yeah, you approved that, you knew that, but we're going to give you $86 or whatever.
Justin, haven't we?
It's for this year. I get it's
I
for
think
this
the
year.
only
It
real
doesn't help
way
it
to
in
solve
next year.
that would be to have a $50 to $60 million valuation building come back online or new building come to town.
You like the villages at Technology Hill that'll be under construction right
Justin,
now?
haven't we
Well,
historically?
Or a building that's currently existing. But I have another question for you is, looking not just at this year, but you're more of a long-term thinker. What are you thinking for next year or the year after for potential uses of UFB? Because right now you're only talking about this year.
Yeah, I want to focus on these capital reserve funds. I shouldn't have had to buy PPE and have to borrow money to do it, which is what we did.
Right.
We should be paying cash with that. That is what benefits the taxpayers the most over those periods of time. That's the best way to do this. I'm not making this up. This is what nationwide, your financial experts are all going to tell you the same thing. This is not the way to do that. You're artificially hedging the tax rate that someone has to fix next year. Because
Right.
now you created $1 million hole, whatever it's going to be. So my recommendation is when you have those cash reserves, you use them like we're proposing to use them. And when you don't, then either you don't do them or you're going to have to raise taxes.
I'm gonna challenge the assertion that we're making a hole because we are getting something off their tax bill this year that won't be there next year. And yes, the tax rate will go back up, but we're just trying to provide relief temporarily. We're not guaranteeing relief for all time.
Right.
We're just saying, hey, this year people are struggling. This year people have came up and poured their heart out about how they would like us to do something and they need some help. And
Well,
so
they've been doing this every year. I mean, going back to when I was
Yeah.
here in 2019, people have, even when I was in the audience, I was coming up and saying this, and yet it just keeps going through and keeps going. We need to think about a better way of addressing the situation. You know, giving someone a cough drop when they really need some medicine is what we're doing. You're giving them a cough drop, but they need Robitussin to stop the cough. That's what I see it as.
Just,
We're not
I want to ask
fixing it.
Justin a quick question. Justin, haven't we typically over the prior years put some unassigned fund balance into this? I believe we have. I believe we have every year.
$200,000 for the last 3-4
Yeah,
years.
every year we have.
Yes.
Yes. So.
So
if we take it out,
Does that make it right?
but then again, you're gonna take it away this year, and you're gonna. So I'm just thinking that the people that have talked to me want us to try to do something as a council to try to do something.
So you
So
have to
Ron,
take-
can I ask something?
You can ask anything you want.
All right, I want you to think about this. All right. The retirement system comes to the town of Londonderry and says, guess what? You need to cough up $1 million, $2 million. Look what happened to the school districts, okay, with their insurance. And the same thing happens to us. Now what are you gonna do? Oh, well, we've depleted UFB so much that we don't have it. The school district was smart, all right? They had money. Wish other districts were as smart as them, because now that they're in that predicament, they have the money to fix it without going to the taxpayer, all right? And the same thing with us. I mean, we have the New Hampshire retirement system, which we know is underwater, and they've had problems, and somebody in Concord says, hey, why don't we just send, we'll fix this. We're gonna send all the communities a nice bill and say, you gotta pay it, all right? And then our insurance company does the same thing, our health insurance. Where are you guys going to find the money?
Or we overtax something, like we did with 2 businesses in town, and we
You know?
have to pay it back.
And now we're going to go to the taxpayers and
Goes
say,
to court.
Well, that's why we're not going below a certain threshold. We've operated in this town at 5 million for a long time. We are up to 12 million, over 12 million in UFB, which we have never seen before.
I'll tell you one thing, Sean, with the way the economy is, I mean, things are slowing down. Things are not looking good at great in real estate. I see things sitting there for a long period of time, okay? We are not headed in the right direction.
Which is why I want to help
So
out
the reason
people,
to help
not us.
So if we're going to, it's just like taking your own personal accounts at home, and we're saying, well, we're gonna deplete it a little bit more, and then something happens, your furnace craps out, or, all this other stuff happens, your roof, starts leaking, and you don't have the money. Now you're gonna go borrow the money, and you're going to pay extra, all right, on it, and you're gonna be paying more. I'm not like that. I'm sorry. I mean, Bob Slater's sitting there and he knows, all right, that in business, I don't like to pay more than I have to.
We only need a certain amount in reserve.
So-
We don't need an unlimited amount in reserve, and our reserve shouldn't be as high as it possibly can be. So what do we do with that leftover is what we're
I'm not gonna go
discussing.
against the finance director.
We're
and
going to be
town
at the
manager.
minimum, the minimum of your reserves that they tell you to have, the bare minimum. That's not smart. And especially when the economy starts to doing what it appears to be doing, you're going to be at that
Yeah,
minimum.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
But it won't
Right,
lower the
I
rate,
know.
just realize
Yeah.
that.
But you can vote on it.
No, we're just gonna. So Justin, what we'll do is when we come back next week, we'll have. I know it won't impact immediately, but we'll have this discussion further.
So you want us to
So-
put an agenda item on, because that means we're holding off and setting the tax rate. Just-
Yeah, because I think we need to further discuss this because I think I don't want
What's
Dan
the
to think we sprung it on him
consequences of-
tonight. I don't want him to leave here with that feeling that it was sprung on him because I didn't mean to do that, and I want everyone to be able to consider it and digest it and understand that unassigned fund balance means that we have overtaxed the taxpayers. Okay, it's their money, and they're asking me to give them some relief. So I would like you to think about the fact that we've taken more money from them, and now they're saying, "Hey, can you give some of that back to me? You overtaxed me." So I would just like us all to think about that, come back maybe with a different decision, or a different perspective, or just think about it in general before we do this. And we have historically done this every single year. So if we don't do it this year, we're going to spike.
We're actually going down from 377 to 366.
Right.
We're not going to spike, we're actually going down.
Right.
Without using unassigned fund balance.
I'm sorry, I don't understand some of this.
That's fine.
So say we don't use it this year, right? And so we grow the UFB fund to, next year it's at, I don't know, 16 million, right? Then you can turn around and say, okay, let's take out $2 million or $3 million just for you. And now your taxes are really gonna feel like you got something back. Because, you know what, we got things accomplished, we're now setting a new way of statistically looking at things. Now we're gonna give you that, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out.
So what you're saying is hypothetically correct, but it's not what the town manager wants to do. So when that happens, he wants to be able to put that money into accounts so that when things come up, like the
Part of
PPE,
it, but
it's
if
paid
you had
for.
16 million and you took, again, 3 million and you threw it back into the
Right.
taxpayer, and then you take the
So
other 12.5,
what-
right, out of the.
What the town manager and Justin is recommending to us is that we eliminate the practice altogether.
Yes.
We don't do it anymore.
So-
So that we would, from this day forward, we would move that money into different funds to pay for things.
Well, I don't think I'm necessarily for that, but I think it should be a year-to-year thing. And that, I don't know. I mean,
So, Justin, would you be able to send out to the council, we'll say the last 10 years, what they've done with the unassigned fund balance? Just so everyone can see what
2020,
we've
we
done.
used 625,000. 2021, you used $1 million. 2022, you used 200. 2023, you used 200. 2024, you used 200. It should be of note that had you not used UFB during that time,
Yeah.
you would have seen a natural decrease in the tax rate in in 22.
Right. So,
But because we used UFB, you saw an increase.
right.
Justin, I got a question for you. How much money are we saving by having $2.5 million to use towards the school district office? How much are the taxpayers saving instead of going out there and financing this thing?
Justin, I believe you have those numbers pretty handy, right?
Around $700,000, Dan.
Well, we're not
That's-
trying to,
it's more
we're not
than
trying to
that.
touch the finance.
We're not
I'm
touching.
not saying you're touching that, but the reason we have that ability to do that is because we have the money in UFB.
So Dan, I
Just
think,
understand that.
so just understand the reverse point, that you have overtaxed the taxpayer. And now they're just asking you, hey, Dan, can we get some of that money back? You overtaxed me?
Ron, I would take that a different way.
Right.
It's not that we've overtaxed the taxpayer, that's
You have
not
to keep
I'm
in
just trying
correct.
to
mind,
make it
this,
simple.
this
Correct.
12 million, 2 million of that is from the sale of Gilchrist.
Right.
Another half a
that's
million
fine.
plus is from the fact that the feds haven't cut the interest rate yet, or they just did. So that right there is about 3 million, and that puts you back around 9. We also recently had the old school district building. We had that as a warrant article previously that encumbered funds for that. That now lapsed. That falls back into UFB.
But I know
So
when we
I
talked about
wouldn't classify it as overtaxing the taxpayers in that regard.
when we talked about Gilchrist Road, it was like, oh, we're going to give it back to the taxpayers. Instead, we came up and said, we're going to work with the school district, and we're going to save the taxpayers even more money, not only in the interest, okay, but that they're not going to be paying that rent up there. They'll be back down here. It's a win-win for the whole community.
And Justin, I
And you
believe
can
the
do both.
interest savings is about 1.5 over 20 years, right?
I don't understand.
Yeah, that was for 10
We can do
years.
both,
or
but
1.5.
It doesn't
You'd
help
borrow
them this
for
year.
20
Yeah.
years.
So that's what I'm saying, it doesn't help this year. And this year, I think people are okay. I think it's next year is when people are really gonna feel the grips of death around
So
their throat.
you haven't had anybody complain to you about the tax?
People have
I'm
been
just saying,
complaining
because
to me, Ron, about the taxes since I moved to this town.
I know, I'm just saying. I just wanna say.
30-something years ago.
Okay.
My point
If
is.
you want to reduce taxes, cut spending.
Exactly.
Decide what you don't want to
Cut
provide for
budget.
services and make those cuts. That's how you do that. I mean,
All right, that's what we'll do. All right, we're gonna move on. Liaison reports.
I don't have any.
Anyone with the?
I went to the police department on Friday for their pumpkin painting with my son. They did a great job putting that together. They had quite a few kids coming through, and even more coming through after I left. They provided
Excellent.
pizza and pumpkins and lots of different paints. It was a good time.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Me, Dan, and Ron had attended the Leadership Londonderry at the police department. They did a wonderful job just seeing their dispatch center in there and some of the other things that they've got going on, explained to the residents just the inner workings. It was a really, really good
Did a
experience.
really good
Wonderful job.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because we were all there, we did not talk
We didn't-
amongst
yeah.
each other.
Yes.
We kept, I stayed on my own, those two stayed on their own.
So I also, I know Dan was there. I don't know if any of you guys went, but it was nice to see the fire department do the open house again.
Yes.
Yep.
That was amazing. And they had their ROTC kids there, and they were
Yep.
using the things to cut the car open to pull the people
Jaws
out.
of
And
life.
they showed like with sprinklers, without sprinklers, safety seats. They actually were doing surveys too, because I was helping them get people fill out surveys on what their people want to see more of, what they want to see their fire department do. So I thought that was really kind of good.
Excellent.
And I told them that they should have a booth every now and then at the town common to hand out their little tchotchkes and make people more aware of safety, car seats and other things for protection in their house. So that was kind of a fun event.
Excellent.
Oh, and
Amen.
don't forget the veterans dinner, breakfast.
That's right. The Veterans Breakfast is November 8th at 8 a.m. But people tend to arrive early, so I'll just warn you, if you want to get a seat, get there early. Town Manager Report.
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Assistant Town Manager Report.
All set, Mr. Chair.
Awesome. I'll open public comment. Seeing none, I will close public comment. I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion from Sean, second from Ted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you all.